On the highway, the roar of the engine was like the roar of a beast, and Ye Chen's Lamborghini Veneno was like a black lightning, tearing through the night, approaching a speed of 300 kilometers per hour. Outside the car window, the neon light stretched into a long line, and the pulse of the city beat like a pulse beneath my feet. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, a hint of fatigue hidden in his brows. After returning from 10 years of seclusion, the call from his family was as urgent as a reminder. In the rearview mirror, a silver light suddenly appeared, cutting through the darkness and coming straight towards him. That's a flying sword. The cold light reflected Ye Chen's pupils, and the sword buzzed with a harsh sound of breaking wind. The spiritual energy on the sword's edge condensed, and there was a faint arc of thunder jumping. The pursuers came, and the Ye family's internal strife finally couldn't bear it any longer. Damn it! Ye Chen cursed in a low voice and stepped on the accelerator. The supercar roared and sparks were generated from the friction between the tires and the asphalt road. But the flying sword was faster. The sword flashed and grazed the rear of the car, exploding into a ball of fire. The heat wave of the explosion hit his face, and the car was suddenly filled with the pungent smell of burnt rubber and molten metal. The driver of the truck behind opened his eyes wide, screamed, and turned the steering wheel. The vehicle lost control and hit the guardrail, making a wail of twisted metal. Immortal cultivator. What the hell is this? The driver's roar came from behind, mixed with the harsh friction of the brake pads and the terrified cries of the passengers. The highway suddenly became chaotic, with cars and trucks colliding like dominoes, flames rising into the sky, thick smoke billowing, and the air filled with the stench of blood and gasoline. Ye Chen sneered, flipped his right hand, and an ancient long sword appeared in his palm. The sword body was engraved with mysterious runes, and there was a faint sound like a dragon's roar. He has practiced seclusion for 10 years and has reached the advanced level of swordsmanship. This soul-destroying sword is an ancestral fairy weapon. It is usually hidden in the dantian. At this moment, when the sword intention moved, the sword light surged, piercing the roof of the car and shooting straight into the night sky. The flying swords of the pursuers were approaching, and standing on the sword was a black-robed monk with a sinister face. He was an assassin from the branch of the Ye family, with peak foundation cultivation. He smiled ferociously and urged the sword technique, Ye Chen, suffer death. As the head of the family, it is not your turn to be an abandoned son. The flying sword was like a poisonous snake spitting messages. The sword energy tore through the air and brought up sonic booms. People on the roadside screamed and fled. Someone was live broadcasting on his mobile phone. The sword light flashed in the screen, and the barrage exploded instantly. It's fake, right? Special effects. Ye Chen did not dodge or dodge, the soul-destroying sword shook, and thousands of rays of cold light erupted from the sword, like the Milky Way pouring down. The assassin's eyes widened and his pupils shrank suddenly. Impossible. How could you? Before he finished speaking, the soul-destroying sword was like a meteor hitting the moon, and the tip of the sword pierced the core of the flying sword. Boom! The two swords collided, spiritual energy exploded, and the shock wave swept across like a nuclear explosion. The highway guardrail was twisted and broken, dozens of cars were overturned, glass fragments poured down like a torrential rain, and screams and explosions intertwined into a doomsday symphony. Blood spurted from the assassin's mouth, his black robe shattered, and the flying sword whined and flew backwards. He reluctantly summoned the sword with a hand, and his face was as white as paper. You have hidden your golden elixir cultivation. Surviving drivers around climbed out of the wreckage and looked at the sword light in the air. Their legs were weak. Someone murmured, "The gods are fighting. We are caught in the middle." The siren sounded from far to near, drones buzzed in, and the audience in the live broadcast exceeded 100 million. The urban legend has come true. Immortal cultivators are exposed. Ye Chen raised his sword finger, and the soul-destroying sword turned into an afterimage, instantly penetrating the assassin's chest. The blood mist exploded, and the assassin's body fell, hitting an SUV. The roof of the car was dented and blood splashed everywhere. The air was filled with the smell of blood like rust. Ye Chen retracted his sword, and the Lamborghini accelerated out of the chaos, leaving behind a sea of fire and stunned witnesses. Exposed. Ye Chen murmured, but there was a hint of ridicule at the corner of his mouth. 10 years of forbearance, just to break all the laws with one sword today. He came to the family meeting. The Ye family's ancient house is hidden under the high-rise buildings in the city's CBD. On the surface it is the headquarters of a multinational consortium, but on the inside it is surrounded by spiritual formations, shielding it from prying eyes. In the hall, the lights were brightly lit, more than 100 family members gathered together, and the air was filled with heavy spiritual pressure. The head of the family, Ye Chen, sat on the throne, with gray hair but eyes like an eagle. His power in the late stage of foundation building made the young disciple breathless. Ye Chen, what a scoundrel! He openly wielded a sword on the highway, causing a tragedy of hundreds of casualties. An elder shouted, his voice thunderous, his face ashen. It was Jiang Chen, the insidious powerful official, pointing at the projection screen with trembling fingers. On the screen, surveillance footage played in a loop. Flying swords tore through the night sky, explosions of fire, and corpses littering the fields. The official has intervened, and the Immortal Cultivation Alliance is furious. This man has broken a secret taboo, his cultivation should be abolished, and he should be expelled from the Ye family. The hall was in an uproar, and young disciples whispered, Ye Chen. That loser who was expelled 10 years ago. I heard that he came back from seclusion, but who knew he would be a disaster? Master, make a quick decision, don't let the disaster spread to the family. Yi Ji, cousin Ye Chen's rival, had a pretty face with a cold face, and the fire of jealousy flickered in his eyes. Wearing a white dress, she was in the middle stage of foundation establishment. She stood up and sneered, my cousin has always been arrogant, but this time he must have been deliberately exposed and had evil intentions. Elders, destroy him. Jiang Chen smiled sinisterly, stroking his beard and nodded, yes, what Ji said is absolutely true. I have seen with my own eyes that Ye Chen's sword is so powerful that he kills my Ye family's assassins like butchering dogs. He is simply lawless. His voice trembled, pretending to be angry, but in fact there was calculation in his eyes. Ye Tianxiong frowned and said in a deep voice, where is Ye Chen? Call him to confront him immediately. Outside the hall, Han Shao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. This worldly rich second-generation best friend had just awakened his spiritual roots and followed Ye Chen. He whispered to Ye Chen, Brother Chen, this is not a good situation. The elders are attacking in groups. Do you really want to break through? Han Zhao's legs were shaking slightly. He smelled the spiritual fragrance coming from the hall, mixed with the faint smell of elixirs from the elders, and his heart beat like a drum. Ye Chen pushed the door open and walked in. The tires of the supercar still had scorch marks from the highway. He was dressed in black, with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, and his aura was as strong as a mountain standing still. The hall fell silent for a moment, and everyone's eyes were like arrows. Yi Jimei's eyes narrowed and she lost her voice, you, how dare you come? Jiang Chen raised his eyes and his voice trembled slightly, you evildoer. Kneel down. Ye Chen sneered and stepped forward with steady steps. The soul-destroying sword's intention was faintly flowing, and the aura in the hall was agitated by it. The disciples gasped, and someone whispered, this momentum, peak of foundation building? No, stronger. Han Shao widened his eyes and followed behind, muttering in a low voice, Brother Chen is pretending to be too stable. The head of the family, Ye Tianxiong, suddenly stood up, and the pressure poured out like a mountain, Ye Chen. Do you know your guilt? The tragedy on the highway, hundreds of lives, and the exposure of the immortal cultivator were all caused by your sword. The elders echoed, with a roar, destroy his cultivation. Expelled from the Ye family. The crime is unforgivable. Yi Ji took a step forward and pointed at Ye Chen's nose. Cousin, you have lived in seclusion for 10 years, have you pretended to be a grandson? Now that you are exposed, how will the family's face be saved? Kneel down and plead guilty, maybe the head of the family will spare your life. Ye Chen stood in the center and looked around the audience, his lips becoming more sarcastic. The lights in the hall reflected on his face, casting shadows, and the air seemed to freeze. He spoke slowly, his voice as calm as the sound of a sword. Guilty? Who gave you the courage to convict you? As soon as he said this, the whole place fell silent. Jiang Chen's expression suddenly changed, and the elder's eyes widened. The teacup in someone's hand shattered, and the hot tea spilled out, causing the skin to turn red, but they didn't even notice it. Arrogant. Yi Zhijiao scolded, fear flashed in her beautiful eyes, and her spiritual power surged to take action. Han Xiao swallowed and his eyes shone. Brother Chen is about to have an attack. The owner of the family, Yi Tianxiong, had his pupils contracted and felt something bad. The sword intent in the air was getting thicker and there was a faint cold wind blowing against his face. At this moment, Jiang Chen chuckled sinisterly, took a step forward, kneaded the magic formula with his hand, switched the projection screen, and a new picture appeared. When Ye Chen was running away in a supercar, a mysterious woman's figure flashed on the roadside, and the jade pendant in her hand was filled with aura, and she turned out to be the spy mark of another family. Jiang Chen's voice trembled and was full of sinisterness. Ye Chen, it's not just the highway. You colluded with foreign enemies. Lin family Yuyan has been your internal collaborator for a long time. What's more, you killed my Yi family assassin, and you are treason against the family leader. The evidence is here, and the whole family will be tried together. What else do you have to say? There was a roar in the hall, the elders' faces were ashen, and the disciples exclaimed, colluding with foreign enemies? Lin Yuyan? That stunning female cultivator? Ye Chen, you are dead. Yi Ji covered her mouth, a mixture of ecstasy and fear flashed in her eyes. Han Zhao's legs went weak and he looked at Ye Chen. Brother Chen, what should I do? Ye Chen's eyes turned cold, and the soul-destroying sword intent quietly rose. The temperature in the hall dropped sharply, and the sword energy was like an invisible blade, making people's cheeks hurt. Everyone's eyes were focused. He slowly raised his hand and pointed his sword at Jiang Chen. Ye Chen's sword finger was like a frost blade in the sky, and the sword energy in the hall was like countless fine needles piercing the bones, scratching the sleeves of the elders' robes, and blood oozing from their cheeks. Jiang Chen's eyes suddenly shrank, he took half a step back, his step staggered and he stepped on the floor tiles, making a clear cracking sound. His throat rolled, and his voice trembled slightly. You are such a villain, how dare you threaten this elder? The disciples in the audience gasped, and some people rubbed their stinging faces and murmured, this sword intention is so strong. How could that good-for-nothing Ye Chen do it? Yi Ji's pretty face turned pale, and a trace of panic flashed in her beautiful eyes. She forced herself to calm down, and yelled, pretend to be a ghost. Cousin, your cultivation in the early stage of foundation building, you dare to act wild in front of the elders? How can the family meeting allow you to be so arrogant? Her voice was sharp, but the trembling at the end could not be concealed. The female disciples around her whispered, their eyes turning from contempt to suspicion, Sister Ji is right, he is just an abandoned son. But why is his aura so overwhelming? The head of the family, Yi Tianxiong, furrowed his brows and his white hair was calm. He suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and shouted in a deep voice, Ye Chen. Stop fooling around. Elder Jiang accused you of colluding with Lin family Yuyan. The evidence is conclusive. The highway tragedy has attracted an official killing order. Xiao Xian the Alliance is about to arrest you. How dare you threaten the elders if you don't kneel down and plead guilty? His pressure was like a mountain collapsing, and the aura turned into an invisible giant hand, which made the air in the hall buzz. The disciples' chests hurt, and several young monks oozed blood from their mouths and noses, and knelt down gasping for breath. Han Xiao was squeezed on the edge of the crowd. The legs of this rich second-generation best friend were trembling, and sweat was sliding down his forehead. Mixed with the strong spiritual fragrance and bloody omens in the mixing hall, he murmured in a low voice, "Brother Chen, this sword energy can't even withstand the awakening of my spiritual roots." The elders' faces turned green. He wanted to step forward to support him, but he was pushed away by the disciples next to him. Some people laughed at him. "You dare to interfere in the Ye family's family affairs, even if you are a worldly idiot? Get out." Ye Ji took advantage of the situation and stepped forward. In the middle stage of foundation building, her spiritual power surged, her white skirt bulged, her beautiful eyes burst into flames, and her pretty face twisted with jealousy. "Cousin, you have been practicing seclusion for 10 years, why are you pretending to be an expert? In front of everyone, your cultivation is not good enough. After the initial stage of foundation building, you can't even catch my palm. You are not worthy of the blood of the Yi family. Today, your spiritual roots will be destroyed and you will fall into the mortal world forever." She struck out with her jade hand, with the wind like a knife, carrying a faint floral scent, and struck directly at Ye Chen's face. The surrounding disciples widened their eyes and shouted excitedly, "Sister Ji has taken action. Destroy him." Waves of ridicule came like a tide, and dozens of people at the elders' table shouted in unison, "You are a waste. Exposing secrets will bring shame to the family. Collude with the Lin family, betray the family for glory, death is not a pity." A fat elder pointed at Ye Chen, his fat face turned red, and spittle flew everywhere. "Ye Chen, you were expelled 10 years ago and no longer have the blood of the Yi family. You killed our assassin with a sword on the highway, and you will pay for it with blood." The disciples echoed, their voices roared like thunder. Someone threw a teacup at Ye Chen, the sound of broken porcelain pieces was clear, and white mist steamed up from the hot tea spilled on the ground. Ye Chen remained motionless, lightly raising his sword finger, and the invisible sword intent surged out like a tide. With a snap, the wind in Yi Ji's palm collapsed. Her delicate body took 3 steps back and hit the elder's table. The legs of the table broke and sawdust flew. She covered her wrists and cried out in pain, "You, how is it possible?" Her face was as pale as paper, and the fear in her beautiful eyes was overwhelming. The disciples' eyes widened, and some people rubbed their eyes. Hallucination. Sister Ji was knocked back by the sword in the middle of foundation building. Seeing this, Jiang Chen's sinister smile grew louder. He stroked his beard to hide his guilty conscience, and his voice trembled but he pretended to be angry. "Elders, don't panic, this boy's sword intention is weird, it must be the evil magic taught by Yuyan of the Lin family. The projection evidence is clear. When he escaped by running away, the aura of the jade pendant was between the Lin family spy mark. Ye Chen, you betrayed your clan and colluded, there are mountains of evidence." He pointed at the projection screen, and the mysterious woman's figure loomed on the screen. The uproar in the hall intensified. "The female cultivator of the Lin family? It turns out there is a traitor. Ye Chen, you are dead." Ye Chen sneered, his eyes swept across the entire audience like a sword. The soul-destroying sword was secretly transported to Dantian, and the cultivation of the hidden golden elixir was brewing like a volcano. The temperature in the hall dropped sharply, the cold wind blew against his face, and the candlelight swayed and lengthened the shadows of everyone. He was neither impatient nor impatient, and his voice was as calm as water. "Evidence? Jiang Chen, you are such an old dog, do you think that the Yi family is all blind?" As soon as these words came out, the whole place was silent, the expressions of the elders suddenly changed, the jade slip in someone's hand crackled and shattered, and the aura overflowed. Ye Chen turned his sword finger and pierced Jiang Chen's eyebrows. The invisible sword energy rushed into Jiang Chen's sea of consciousness like a thread. Jiang Chen's pupils shrank, he screamed, he knelt down and held his head, veins popped out on his forehead, and he was sweating like rain. "Ah, no. How do you detect my spiritual sense?" His voice was distorted, the disciples in the hall widened their eyes, Han Xiao clenched his fists, and whispered, "Brother Chen is awesome." This old guy's face is distorted. Ye Chen's sword was like a knife cutting out the heart, instantly extracting Jiang Chen's memory fragments. The projection screen flashed, and a new picture appeared. Jiang Chen secretly met with Lin family spies under the black robe, handed over the jade pendant, and secretly said, "Accept Ye Chen, I will be the head of the family." In front of the highway, Jiang Chen personally sent assassins to chase him, with a sinister smile, expose the secret, frame the blame and abandon the son, kill two birds with one stone. The scene was bloody, and Jiang Chen's voice echoed, "Lin Yuyan is my internal agent. Once Ye Chen dies, the Yi family will change hands." The hall exploded. The elder's eyes widened. The fat elder dropped his teacup to the ground, and the hot soup was scalding his feet, but he didn't realize it. "Jiang Chen. You are the traitor." Yi Ji's pretty face twisted, jealousy turned into shock. She pointed at Jiang Chen and her fingers trembled. "Elder. Are you lying to me?" The disciples' whispers turned into roars. "Traitor! Traitor! Kill him!" The head of the family, Ye Tianxiong, suddenly stood up, his white hair flying, and the pressure was like a violent wave. "Jiang Chen. You are so brave." His eyes were like an eagle, but when he looked at Ye Chen, his pupils shrank. "Ye Chen, your sword intention, detecting spiritual consciousness without hurting the soul, the method of golden elixir." Han Zhao's eyes were shining, his legs were weak and he was ecstatic. "Brother Chen counterattack. This evidence is ironclad, the old guy is finished." Jiang Chen knelt down and rolled over, spitting blood from his mouth, with sinister eyes flashing. He squeezed the magic formula fiercely and secretly transmitted the message, "Elders, don't listen to this kid's evil words. His swordsmanship is weird, he must be a demon cultivator. Call the protector quickly and force him to destroy his cultivation." After saying this, the hall door suddenly opened, and more than 10 Peak Foundation building protectors rushed in. They were covered in black armor, the magical weapons in their hands were full of aura, and they had murderous intent like knives. The air was filled with the smell of rust and blood. Their sword array surrounded Ye Chen, and their swords sounded in unison, like thousands of arrows fired in unison, locking Ye Chen's body. Ye Chen was bathing in the center of the sword array, dressed in black and sarcastic. The soul-destroying sword intention was like the tranquil moment before the eruption of a volcano. His eyes swept across Jiang Chen, and his voice was as low as the bells of hell. "Jiang Chen, you summon masters, do you think you can suppress me? Today, I will let you see what it means to be in the realm of swordsmanship." All the inner sword energy surged, and the cold light was dazzling. The faces of all the protectors suddenly changed, and their wrists trembled. "This sword intention, why can't the sword be controlled?" The head of the family, Ye Tianxiong, suddenly changed his expression. It was too late to stand up and stop drinking, and the sound of the sword formation buzzing and cracking sounded. The guardian leader's voice was like a bell. "By the order of Elder Jiang, Ye Chen's spiritual roots are destroyed." The sword array was pressed down, and the spiritual pressure was like a mountain collapse. The disciples retreated, their faces pale, and someone screamed, "Golden elixir sword array. Ye Chen is dead." Yi Ji was ecstatic again. Ran, his beautiful eyes flashed with poison. "Cousin, let's see how you escape this time." Han Zhao's face turned pale, and he rushed forward and shouted, "Stop! Brother Chen is not guilty." However, he was thrown away by the sword energy, hit the wall and vomited blood, muttering in his mouth, "Brother Chen, hold on." Jiang Chen smiled evilly, and the secret treasure hidden in his sleeve flashed. "It's too late. Protector, kill without mercy." The 10 swords fell together, the sword energy was like a tornado, tearing the air with a harsh roar. The tables and chairs in the hall turned into dust, sawdust like a heavy rain. The candlelight was extinguished, leaving only the spiritual light shining on everyone's frightened faces. Yi Ji covered her mouth and retreated, a trace of regret flashed in her beautiful eyes. "Too strong, cousin, what are you hiding?" Han Xiao got up, his eyes were bloodshot, and shouted, "Brother Chen, fight back." Just when the sword energy was about to engulf Ye Chen, his Dantian golden elixir swirled, and the soul-destroying sword buzzed out. The blade of the sword erupted with a cold light as bright as the Milky Way, and the hall suddenly appeared like day. Everyone's eyes stung, and they exclaimed in unison, "Immortal weapon! The ancestral soul-destroying sword!" But Ye Chen did not reveal his full edge, the sword only trembled slightly, and invisible ripples spread. The whole place was dead silent, the elders were kneeling weakly, and someone murmured, "Golden elixir, no, the appearance of a sword fairy." Yi Ji's pretty face was bloodless, jealousy turned into fear, she backed up and hit the wall, the bricks cracked. No way. How can he deserve this sword? The head of the family, Ye Tianxiong, had white hair standing on end, and his throat rolled. "Ye Chen, you." Han Xiao laughed wildly, blood foam flying. Brother Chen is invincible." Jiang Chen's face turned gray, the secret treasure was shattered and his aura dimmed. He got up and shouted, "Why don't you kill this kid? He has been practicing seclusion for 10 years, so he must have a backup plan." The guardians looked at each other, their legs were weak, and no one dared to move. Ye Chen's sword hung in the air, and the cold light shone on the whole audience, and he slowly said, "Jiang Chen, your doom has come." The sword's intention increased again, the spiritual array on the top of the hall trembled, and there was a faint sign of thunder and catastrophe. But at this moment, hurried footsteps were heard outside the hall, and a stunningly beautiful figure flashed in. It was Lin Yuyan. She was dressed in white and wore a jade pendant, and her aura was undiminished. Her pretty face was anxious. "Young Master Yi. The Alliance hunting team has arrived at the gate of the Yi family. The highway video is broadcast globally. The cultivators are exposed and irreversible." The whole place was in an uproar. The elders' faces were ashen, and the disciples screamed and ran away. Jiang Chen's eyes flashed with the final sinisterness. "Okay. It's better to be exposed. Ye Chen, you will take the blame alone." The night wind roared like ghosts crying and wolves howling, mixed with the distant thunder and roar of the mountain gate. The candlelight in the Yi family hall was extinguished, leaving only the cold light of the soul-killing sword hanging in the air, reflecting the distorted faces of everyone. Lin Yuyan was hunting in white clothes, her beautiful eyes glanced anxiously at Ye Chen, her jade hands tightly grasped the jade pendant around her waist, her aura pulsed like her heartbeat. "Master Yi, the hunting team of 500 people, led by the 3 golden elixirs, has broken through the first mountain gate formation. Global live broadcast frequently spread the news, mortals are panicking, and the Alliance has an ironclad order, destroy the entire Yi family." Her voice was clear but trembling. The air in the hall was filled with the smell of rust and blood. The faces of the disciples were ashen, and some people were kneeling with weak legs, and the smell of urine was faintly wafting. Jiang Chen rolled on his knees, his gray face twisted into a ghost, his sinister eyes were like a poisonous snake spitting out a message. He gritted his teeth, bloodshot eyes spilled from the corners of his lips. "Ye Chen, why are you pretending to be a hero? The hunting team is here, your whole family will be buried with you. Long. Old men, why are you still standing there? If we work together to destroy this evil barrier and surrender to the Alliance, the Yi family may still have a chance to survive." His voice was as hoarse as scraping iron, and the shards of the secret treasure in his sleeves fell to the ground, causing the eyes of the 5 die-hard elders around him to brighten. The fat elder's fat face trembled, and the table legs cracked loudly when he stood up. He kneaded the secrets with his fat hands, and his spiritual power surged in the late stage of foundation building. "Yes. Elder Jiang is right. This guy's sword skills are weird, he must be a demon. Elders, set up a spirit-destroying 5 elements formation." The other 4 elders looked at each other, their throats rolling. After a moment of hesitation, they all stood up, their black robes bulged, and their spiritual energy turned into 5-color light pillars, which shot straight to the top of the hall. The spiritual pressure in the hall was like a landslide and tsunami, the buzzing was deafening, the floor tiles in the hall were cracked, the cracks spread like spider webs, and sawdust and dust filled the nostrils. The 5 light beams converged and turned into the shadow of a giant palm, which was 10 feet high. The 5-line runes on the palm shone with the light of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, and crushed down, going straight to Ye Chen's dantian. The air twisted and roared, and the disciples screamed and retreated. Some people were thrown away by the aftermath. There was a muffled sound of bones cracking when they hit the wall, and bloody mist was sprayed from their mouths. When Han Shao got up, his face was pale and his legs were trembling. "Brother Chen, this formation will even be disabled in the early stages of the Golden Core." His voice was trembling, sweat mixed with blood dripping from his nose, and he could smell the strong smell of burnt earth at the tip of his nose. Yi Ji's pretty face was pale, her beautiful eyes flickered with fear, but she suppressed jealousy, and a sneer appeared on her lips. She retreated to the elder's table, her white skirt stained with dust. "Cousin, you are dead this time. Even the head of the family is afraid of the 5 elements soul-destroying formation. After destroying your spiritual root, I, Yi Ji, will personally cut out the blood from your heart to avenge the shame of the highway." Her voice was sharp and harsh, and she could not hide her tale. The sound trembled, and the female disciples around them widened their eyes and whispered, "Sister Ji, she still dares to mock. How terrifying was that sword intent just now." The head of the family, Ye Chen, stood up and shouted, "Stop! Jiang Chen, you traitor!" Before he could finish his words, the giant palm pressed down. The spiritual pressure was like a heavy hammer, the candlestick in the hall melted, and the wax oil dripped and hissed. Ye Chen's eyes condensed, and the soul-destroying sword rang out softly, pointing the sword at the whole audience. "You guys, follow me to meet the enemy." The momentum was like that of an emperor coming to the world. Everyone's pupils shrank, and they felt a sense of surrender. Han Shao wiped the blood and said excitedly, "Brother Chen, beat them." Yi Ji bit her lip, complex eyes flashing. The head of the family, Ye Chen, took a deep breath and finally lowered his head. "Ye Chen, maybe it's time to change the position of the head of the family." The sword light surged, the hall door opened, the night wind mixed with distant thunder rushed in, and the dark shadow of the hunting team approached. The guardians looked at each other after taking off their swords. Their legs were weak, and someone murmured, "The formation is complete. Ye Chen is finished." Jiang Chen's smile became even louder, his gray face turned red. "Boy, kneel down and beg for mercy, maybe your whole body will be left." The whole audience was in an uproar and ridiculed. There were waves of voices, "Trash and abandoned son. Traitor of the clan. Death." The disciples stared excitedly. The air was filled with the stench of sweat and fear of urine, and the spiritual light reflected the distorted shadows of everyone, elongating like ghosts. In an instant, the golden elixir in Ye Chen's dantian swirled wildly, and the soul-destroying sword erupted with a galactic sword cry, buzz. A sword chant was like a chorus of thousands of swords, piercing everyone's eardrums. The ears of the disciples in the hall were buzzing, and blood was flowing down the ear holes. Some people held their heads and screamed, "I'm deaf. This sword sound, sword immortal." The invisible sword intent surged like a tide, the shadow of the giant palm shattered inch by inch, 5-color light exploded like fireworks, and the fragments shot out like sharp blades, cutting through the sleeves of the elder's robes, and blood blossomed. The fat elder bore the brunt of the attack, his fat face twisted, his chest pierced with sword energy, and blood mist spurted out. His eyes widened, and his voice trembled like a candle in the wind, "No." The sword intent entered the body, "Ah." The body fell to the ground, smashing the floor tiles, and the pool of blood spread, leaving a fishy sweet taste in his nose. The sword has not stopped yet. The soul-destroying sword's brilliance flourished, turning into 5 rays of silver light, like meteors chasing the moon, piercing directly between the eyebrows of Jiang Chen and the other 4 elders. Jiang Chen's vertical pupils shrank suddenly, and his gray face twisted in despair. "No. How dare you?" The words were cut off, the sword light pierced through the sky, the brains mixed with blood sprayed on the wall, the sound of sputtering was sticky and harsh, his body twitched, and the vicious eyes were filled with fear forever. The other 4 elders were unable to react in time. The foundation-building spiritual shield shattered like paper, the sword energy entered the body, blood holes exploded in the chest and abdomen, the internal organs slipped out, and the sizzling and dragging sound of the intestines was disgusting. An elder's severed arm flew out and hit the disciple in the face. The disciple screamed and retreated. "Elder, is dead. Kill 5 with one sword." The hall was stained with blood, and the floor tiles turned into red rivers, gathering at the ankles, making them warm and sticky. The whole place went from dead silence to roar. The disciples' eyes widened, and their pupils were like needle points. Some people rubbed their eyes and murmured, "Hallucination, 5 elders, instant kill." Han Shao clenched his fists, his bloodshot eyes flashed wildly, his legs were soft and he knelt down and laughed wildly. "Brother Chen. It's amazing. The sword is like the pen of the king of hell, one hook has 5 lives." His voice was trembling and excited, and the smell of blood on his nose was as strong as iron. Yi Ji's pretty face was as white as a ghost, with fear in her beautiful eyes. She stepped back and hit the wall. The wall bricks were cracked, and she covered her mouth with her jade hands. Vomiting came to her. "Cousin, you are a sword demon. Elder Jiang and the others, there is a lot of blood." Her white skirt was splattered with blood, and her tremors were sharp and ear-piercing. The female disciples around her screamed and ran away, and some knelt down and kowtowed. "Master Yi, spare your life. We were wrong." The head of the family, Ye Chen, had white hair flying in the air, and his throat was rolling like an iron ball. He staggered half a step as the leader, his eyes turned from shock to admiration. "Ye Chen. Jin Dan's sword immortal. I give way." His knees softened, and he knelt down and kowtowed. His forehead hit the ground with a thud, and all his spiritual pressure was gone. The swords of the guardians fell to the ground and clinked. The commander's face was ashen and he knelt forward. "Yi. Master Yi, please spare your life. The sword array has collapsed, we blindly follow the Jiang thieves." All the monks in the audience had their legs as weak as their faces. They knelt down in unison, kowtowing like rain on the plantains, and there was a pool of blood. There was a red wave in the air. "Master Yi, please spare your life. Don't abandon your son, the Emperor of Swordsmanship. The Yi family is saved." The smell of blood in the hall was soaring, mixed with the stench of sweat and feces, urine and incontinence. The aftertaste of the sword energy scraped the bones like needles, and blood oozed from everyone's cheeks. Ye Chen whirled the soul-destroying sword lightly, put the sword into his body, and was dressed in dust-free black clothes. His eyes swept over the whole place, like an emperor inspecting ants, and his voice was as low as the constitution of heaven. "From now on, I, Ye Chen, the head of the Yi family. Jiang Chen rebel's disciple, Gulan betrayed his clan, and the 5 elders were disobedient. It is not a pity to die. You all obey the order, prepare for war, and follow me to destroy the hunting team." The momentum was overwhelming, and the spiritual array in the hall hummed in submission, and thunder in the distance seemed to cheer. Everyone breathed heavily and worshipped like a tide. Someone whispered, "Long live the master of the family. Elder Jiantu, reverse the secret." Yi Tianxiong kowtowed even more urgently. "I am willing to hand over the jade seal of the master of the family and the resources of the Yi family to the master's disposal." Han Shao got up, his body covered with blood, his eyes bloodshot but pale with joy. He rushed to Ye Chen's feet, knelt down and clasped his fists. "Brother Chen. Your sword is worth 10 of my lives. I saw you killing assassins with your sword on the highway, and I knew you were a real immortal. But, the 5th elder is like killing a chicken." His voice was trembling and excited, sweat and blood dripping from him, and his nose smelled the elegant sword fragrance around Ye Chen, overwhelming the blood. Ye Chen looked down at his best friend, tapped his eyebrows with his sword finger, and the golden elixir sword intention poured into him like a warm current. Han Zhao's spiritual roots suddenly awakened, his meridians opened up inch by inch, and spiritual energy poured into his dantian. He widened his eyes and uttered a flash of light in his mouth. Ah! The spiritual roots awaken. Is there hope for building a foundation? Brother Chen, you enlightened me. The disciples around him stared and exclaimed, the second generation of a secular rich man is also worthy of cultivating immortals. Lord Ye's grace. Ye Chen was hunting in black, motionless under the giant palm of his bath. The soul-destroying sword was trembling slightly in the air, and the cold light reflected in his eyes was like the stars turning upside down. The curve of his mouth deepened in mockery, and his voice was as calm as autumn water. 5 elements of spirit annihilation. A group of foundation-building ants, are they worthy of touching my dantian? As soon as he said this, the whole place was dead silent. The fat elder's pupils shrank, and his fat hands trembled. You, golden elixir. Yi Jimei's eyes widened, and her pretty face was bloodless. Impossible. How can you block this formation in the early stage of foundation building? Lin Yuyan's white clothes fluttered, her beautiful eyes sparkled with admiration. She stepped forward, her voice was soft and trembling. Young Master Ye's swordsmanship is as good as the sky. The Lin family is willing to form an alliance to fight against the alliance. Yu Yan is willing to follow Swo right. The aura of her jade pendant reflected Ye Chen's handsome face, and the male disciples in the hall whispered in envy, Fairy of the Lin family has fallen. Ye Chen smiled and nodded, using the soul-destroying sword intention. The spiritual array on the top of the hall revived, and the brilliance flourished. Yi Ji knelt in a pool of blood, her pretty face contorted, jealousy and fear intertwined. Her beautiful eyes were lowered, her jade hands secretly pinched the jade talisman, and with a flash of inspiration on her fingertips, she secretly sent a message to the foreign enemy, Lin family secret agent, report quickly. Elder Ye Chen to, Jin Dan's sword immortal, the Yi family has changed hands, send masters to take revenge quickly. Fu broke silently, she stood up with a forced smile, and knelt forward. Tang, master, Ji is wrong, I am willing to follow the example of Quanma. A sinister look flashed in her eyes. Ye Chen's sword eyes were like lightning, seemingly observing but not observing, and he snorted coldly, Yi Ji, make atonement for your sins and go to the mountain gate to meet the enemy. The whole crowd stood up, murderous intent rising to the sky. The night wind rushed in with thunder, and the dark shadow of the hunting team was approaching the second mountain gate. Han Shao pointed his sword at the first flash of inspiration and roared, Brother Chen, kill them. A river of blood surged in the hall, the Yi family was reborn, and the sound of swords resounded through the night sky. On the top of the mountain in the distance, a black shadow received the jade talisman and smiled sinisterly, Ye Chen. What a swordsman! Before the Immortal Cultivation Alliance goes on a personal expedition, I'll let you taste the ultimate kill from foreign enemies. Thunder clouds were gathering, and there was an undercurrent of crisis. Ye Chen was hunting in black, his soul-destroying sword intent was as restrained as the sleeping stars. His eyes swept across the whole place like lightning, and his voice was deep and soul-stirring, where are the rest of Jiang Chen's gang? Surrender yourself quickly, and I will spare your life. After saying this, the faces of more than 10 figures in the corner turned pale. The foundation-building disciple Zhongjiang Sek's hardcore legs were as soft as mud, and someone screamed, Master, spare your life. We are forced. A thin elder-like man crawled out first, his knees were bruised, his throat was rolling, and his voice was trembling like the wind. Can Yi? Master Yi, Jiang Chen promised us spiritual stones, we were wrong. The disciples around them widened their eyes and whispered, Jiang Yu is still hiding? The master can see through it at a glance. Han Zhao's body was covered with blood, and his sword finger flashed with spiritual light. He stood up with a wild laugh, and banged his fist on the ground, Brother Chen, these bitches mocked you for abandoning your son just now. Kill them. His breathing was heavy, and the smell of excitement and sweat filled his nostrils. After his spiritual roots were awakened, his meridians were on fire, and his spiritual energy was faintly leaking out. Yi Ji knelt beside a pool of blood, her pretty face twisted into a forced smile, her beautiful eyes lowered to hide her sinister intentions, her jade hands trembled secretly, and the fragments of the jade talisman at her fingertips were hidden in her sleeves. She had just heard that the secret son of the Lin family was heartbeating, the master of the house is wise, and Ye is willing to kiss her. Execute the rest of the party with your hands. The voice was sharp and trembling, but everyone looked at him sideways. A female disciple opened her beautiful eyes and murmured, Sister Ye was still leaning against Ye Chen just now, and now she is licking him so fast. Ye Qianxiong's white hair was disheveled, and he knelt on the throne. Without changing his posture, his forehead hit the ground with a hoarse voice, Master, the jade seal is here, I will personally inspect the remaining party. He threw out the bright jade seal, and the spiritual light reflected Jiang Yu's face, which was distorted. The thin man was the first to bear the brunt. The jade seal pressed down on his head, and the spiritual fire burned his body. He screamed and rolled, Ah, burn. Master, forgive me. The sizzling sound of the skin was charred and black, and the smell of flesh and blood was strong and assailed his nostrils. The body instantly turned to ashes, and the wind blew it away like black mist. The whole place was dead silent, the pupils of the disciples shrank suddenly, some had weak legs and were incontinent, and the yellowish smell mixed with blood made it even more disgusting. Han Zhao's eyes shone brightly, and he roared, Brother Chen, this jade seal sword is as sharp. Ye Chen snorted lightly, tapped his sword finger, and the three loyal guardians stood up. Their faces turned ashen and they were ecstatic, and their throats rolled, Master's grace. Ye Chen, the voice was flat, you have been promoted to elders and are in charge of the mountain gate formation to welcome the hunting team. The guardians widened their eyes and knelt down and kowtowed, I obey the order of the family master. I swear to be loyal to the death. When the first guardian stood up, he hunted in his sleeves, and his spiritual pressure surged to the peak of foundation building. The surrounding disciples whispered in envy, with one word of promotion, can you hope for a golden elixir? The leader of the Ye family is also a god. The internal purge was imminent, and Ye Chen turned to Han Xiao, Brother Xiao, your spiritual roots have awakened. You are my first disciple, and you are in charge of the Ye family's secular industry. The city's mansions, mines, and black and white are all at your disposal. Han Zhao's face turned red, his knees softened and he knelt again, and his voice trembled and excited like a child, Brother Chen. The first disciple. I am a second-generation secular rich man who has awakened and built his foundation. This life is worth it. If the alliance dares to come, I will throw money at them to kill them. He stood up and punched the table leg. He smelled his own spiritual fragrance overwhelming the stench of blood, and his ecstatic laughter echoed in the hall. The surrounding disciples stared and exclaimed, the rich second generation has become an immortal disciple. The secular power of the Ye family is about to explode. Ye Tianxiong kowtowed and became more anxious, young Master Shengwan, I assist Han disciples. The hall was full of murderous intent, Ye Chen's soul-destroying sword rang softly, and the sword's body emerged without dust. He flashed, and a black shadow swept out of the hall door. The night wind blew in his face with thunder, and the light of the sword poured out like the Milky Way, straight into the night sky of the city. The disciples rushed to the door, looked up with wide eyes, and exclaimed, the master of the house is patrolling the city with flying swords. Isn't it enough to kill the elders with one sword? Han Xiao ran out to follow, his spiritual roots were newly awakened, his steps were sloppy but he shouted excitedly, Brother Chen, wait for me. I will stabilize the worldly property first. Lin Yuyan's white clothes fluttered, and her beautiful eyes followed the light of the sword. The jade hand gently pressed her heart, admiring her like fire, and whispered, young Master Ye's sword posture. Yu Yan will never regret it in this life. Yi Ji's pretty face was pale, she secretly bit her silver teeth, and said on her knees, Master, be careful. A sinister smile flashed in his eyes, and the second jade talisman in his sleeve was crushed, sending a message to foreign enemies, Ye Chen is patrolling with flying swords, ambush him quickly. Under the urban night, the neon lights of high-rise buildings are like a sea of stars, the traffic roars like insects, the spiritual energy is faintly pulsating, and ordinary people are unaware of the undercurrent of cultivating immortals. Ye Chen stepped into the void with his sword, his black clothes blended into the night, and his soul-killing sword turned into 100-foot silver rainbow. He looked down at the lights of thousands of houses, and the car exhaust mixed with the neon heat wave hit his face. His eyes were fixed on the abandoned factory in the East District, and his spiritual sense penetrated. 3 foundation-building hidden enemies were gathering together and laughed sinisterly. The Ye family is in civil strife, and the hunting team is in front. We stab at the back, and Ye Chen will die. A short, fat monk pinched the spirit bead with his fat hands, and his voice was hoarse. The global live broadcast of the flying sword chase has gone viral. The Alliance has ordered that whoever kills Ye Chen will be rewarded with pills. Another scar-faced monk licked his lips. I heard that he slaughtered the 5th elder with a sword. It's just bragging. The 3 of us joining forces can give him a drink. In an instant, the silver rainbow fell like a punishment from heaven. The iron roof of the factory was torn apart with a loud noise, and the sword energy exploded like thousands of needles. The pudgy monk's vertical pupils shrank, and his fat face twisted. Enemy attack. Sword intent, golden elixir. His spirit beads exploded and light spread out, the foundation-building spiritual shield rose like paper, the sword light pierced his shoulders, and the blood mist spurted out and hit his nostrils. He screamed and rolled, no. It hurts. Bone marrow. Scarface reacted quickly, drew his sword and slashed wildly. The sword roared out like a dragon, but the silver rainbow shattered into powder. His eyes widened, and his throat gurgled. The sword energy is invisible, senior brother, help. The 3rd monk, the sinister old man, used his skills to summon ghost shadows. Hundreds of ghosts screamed in the night, black fog filled the sky, and the smell of rotten corpses filled the factory. Ye Chen's figure appeared, standing in a pool of blood in black clothes. He taunted, 3 foundation-building rats, are you worthy of plotting against the Ye family? The short and fat monk knelt down with weak legs, his work clothes stained with blood, and his voice trembled, Ye, Lord of the Ye family, please forgive me. We are casual cultivators, hired by the Lin family. The whole place turned from deathly silence to fear. Scarface's knife fell to the ground with a clang, and his legs were trembling and he was sweating like rain. A sword can break my peak sword power. Golden core sword immortal, the rumors are true. The ghost of the old man swallowed his own spiritual power, his face was as withered as a ghost, and he murmured, sword Dao transformation, we ants. Mortal passers-by outside the factory heard the loud noise and watched the live broadcast on their mobile phones from a distance, whispering, explosion. Supernatural event. The soul-destroying sword trembled slightly, and the 3 silver rays were like lightning. The short and fat man was the first to bear the brunt, his forehead pierced through his brain and his brain splashed against the wall, making it sticky. His body twitched and fell to the ground, his fat flesh trembling and blood bubbles gushing out. Scarface's severed arm flew out, smashing the iron barrel and splashing oil. He hugged his shoulders and howled miserably, arm, my foundation-building arm. The old man's ghostly shadow retaliated, and the sword energy entered his body and bleeded. Black blood dripped like ink. He stared at the dead fish eyes, the sword enters the soul, and will never be reincarnated. 3 corpses fell on top of each other, a river of blood gathered at his ankles, and the factory rust was bloody. Ye Chen put away his sword and smiled lightly, Lin family's secret son. Interesting. His sword light flashed again and swept towards the city center. Passers-by behind him broadcast the live broadcast and went viral, the sword immortal appears. The 3 hidden cultivators kill instantly, the head of the Ye family is invincible. The rise of fame is like wildfire. In the mansion of Han Zhao's secular headquarters, the surveillance screen flashes a live broadcast. He hunts in blood robes and smashes the table with wild laughter, Brother Chen is awesome. 3 hidden enemies are like killing chickens. The stock price of Ye Group has soared. The secular black and white ways are kneeling and licking. His spiritual roots are running, and the Dantian of Dantian has been established. The fist smashed the crystal lamp into fragments and jingled, the aroma on his nose overwhelmed the smell of tobacco and alcohol, and he shouted excitedly to his subordinates, "Expand. Acquire your opponents, and the Ye family's industry will dominate the city." The wealthy young man under his command glared and trembled, "Young Master Han, have you leaked your spiritual energy? Are you an immortal? We will follow you to the death." In the city center square, neon lights flashed and there was a crowd. Lin Yuyan was hidden in the crowd in white clothes, her beautiful eyes followed the sword light in the sky, and her heart beat like a drum. She pinched the jade pendant secretly in her jade hand, and her spiritual sense probed the dark alley ahead. "Young Master is patrolling, the assassination has arrived." 5 masked golden elixir early-stage monks in the alley were invisible in the fog formation, and the leading man smiled sinisterly. "Ye Ji sent a message, Ye Chen Feijian is alone, the alliance bounty is increased, we 5 golden elixirs are surrounding you." The corrosive smell of the fog hits her nostrils, the sword light is approaching, they form a formation with secret formulas, and the spiritual pressure is like a landslide. The river of blood slowly gathered in the hall, sticky on the ankles, and the rust was as sweet as a slaughterhouse. Thunder rolled in the distance, mixed with the loud roar of the mountain door breaking, and the second formation's spiritual light was dimmed like a candle. The disciples were kneeling on the ground panting, sweat and blood dripping down, the lingering sword energy on their noses scratched their bones, and some people had blood oozing out of their cheeks, muttering, "The master of the sword is mighty, the elder's corpse is still twitching." Jiang Chen's grey corpse was covered in bones, and the brains slid down the wall. A sticky sound echoed, and the 5th elder's remains were filled with blood bubbles and the stench filled the air. The sword rainbow suddenly fell. The sound of the soul-destroying sword sounded like 10,000 swords in unison, buzzing. The spiritual pressure of the 5 golden elixirs collapsed. The strong man's eyes widened and his plump lips trembled, sword intent overpowers the golden elixir. "Fairy Lin, you betrayed us." The 5 sword rays chased the soul and penetrated the dantian. The blood mist exploded like fireworks. The strong man's first explosion caused a bloody hole in his dantian. His body flew out of the alley and hit the luxury car. The alarm was blaring, and passers-by's mobile phones were filming wildly, golden elixir hermit cultivation. Ye Jinxian's sword exploded 5 times. The other 4 people's internal organs fell out, their intestines dragged on the ground, and fear was permanently fixed in their eyes. Lin Yuyan's pretty face sank, her beautiful face was cold, she walked into the alley with jade steps, and hunted in white, "Everyone, Mr. Ye's swordsmanship reaches the sky, please retreat quickly." The strong man's eyes narrowed, and he smiled ferociously, "Fairy of the Lin family? Are you helping Ye Chen? You are looking for death." The 5 of them moved together, the golden elixir spiritual fire burned the sky, roared like thunder, and molten lava dripped from the alley wall. Passers-by screamed and ran away, "Fire! Monster!" Lin Yuyan's jade pendant exploded, turning into a curtain of water to block the spiritual fire. Her beautiful eyes were anxious, and her voice was crisp and trembling, "Sir, there is an ambush." The sound was transmitted to Ye Chen's spiritual consciousness. Ye Chen appeared and locked eyes with Lin Yuyan, "Thank you for your help, Fairy Lin." Her pretty face turned red, her watery eyes were lowered, and her jade hands trembled slightly. "The master's sword power shocks the world, Yuyan. I fell in love at first sight, and I am willing to follow you to fight against the alliance." Her white clothes were stained with blood, her body fragrance was like orchid overpowering the stench of blood, and her admiring eyes were like fire. Passers-by onlookers burst into cheers, "Sword immortal saves fairy. Urban cultivator is exposed." Live broadcast barrages went crazy, "Ye Chen is invincible. The Ye family is revived and the alliance is over." The neon lights in the city center square pulsated like blood, and there was an empty echo after the crowds dispersed. The aroma of blood mixed with car exhaust hit your nostrils. 5 corpses in the alley had their pubic fields shattered, and their internal organs sizzled on the floor. Black blood formed a stream and flowed down the ditch. Passers-by's mobile phones flashed in the eyes, and the live broadcast screamed like a flood, "Sword Immortal destroys the golden pill. Ye Chen is in charge, the alliance is gone." Lin Yuyan by her clothes were stained with blood, and her beautiful eyes were staring at Ye Chen with mist. The figure in black was as restrained as the abyss with her sword. She pressed her jade hand lightly on her heart, and her voice trembled like the wind blowing, "Young master, I am not talented at speaking. I hope that the Lin family will follow my sword and defeat the hidden enemies together." The passers-by around them widened their eyes and whispered, "The fairy of the Lin family casts her hand at Ye Chen. A beauty paired with a sword fairy, this urban immortal cultivator will turn upside down." Ye Chen glanced at her admiring face and nodded with a faint smile. "Fairy Lin's intelligence is all over the world. She has entered the Yi family as a worshipper and is in charge of the intelligence hall." Her pretty face was as red as the morning glow. She knelt down and kowtowed, and hunted in white, "Thank you, Mr. Master. Yu Yen swears allegiance to the death." People roared and cheered, and barrages on mobile phones were blasted, "The Yi family fairy group. Invincible." Ye Chen's soul-destroying sword rang softly, and the sword's silver rainbow reappeared. He took Lin Yuyan by the waist and walked away in the air. The night wind roared with neon heat waves, overlooking the lights of thousands of families, and headed straight for the mansion of the secular headquarters. The traffic roared in the live broadcast below, and the driver stared up, "Flying swords bring beauty. Ye Chen takes the fairy queen to patrol the sky, and the rich second-generation Han Xiao is going to cry." On the top floor of the mansion, Han Zhao's bloody robe was not changed, and the sword light was broadcast live on the surveillance screen. He punched the crystal residue and jingled, yelling at his subordinates, "Brother Chen slaughtered the 5 golden elixirs again." The share price of Ye's group skyrocketed, and they acquired the black market line and swallowed up all the spirit stone veins. The rich young man under his breath was heavy and the smell of sweat hit his nose. He trembled, "Young Master Han, your foundation-building spiritual pressure is possessed by an immortal. Our gangsters are kneeling, and the white gangsters are here to lick it." Han Zhao's spiritual roots were spinning, and his meridians were burning like needles. His face was distorted and he groaned in pain, "The foundation has just been established, it hurts me to death. When will Brother Chen give me instructions?" As soon as he finished speaking, the glass on the roof shattered like rain, the silver rainbow fell, Ye Chen appeared in black clothes, and Lin Yuyan's white clothes fell down, and her beautiful legs fell to the ground. Han Xiao fell to his knees, his bloody face flushed and shouted excitedly, "Brother Chen. I watched you on the live broadcast with 5 swords and 5 blows, so awesome. Who is this fairy?" The rich young men under him stared with big eyes, their throats rolled, and some people's diapers smelled yellow and muddy, and they murmured, "Flying sword broke the top. Master Yi is here in person, Master Han, we are nothing." Ye Chen swept the whole audience, his voice was deep and soul-stirring, "Han Xiao, your spiritual roots have awakened, and your base-building dantian has just begun. Now you officially become my disciple, and I will teach you the flying sword." Han Zhao's eyes were wet, he knelt forward and kowtowed, and blood oozed from his forehead when he touched the ground, "Master, I'm here to be my disciple." Han Xiao, the second generation of worldly rich people, turned from a dog into an immortal, "It's worth it." Lin Yuyan's beautiful eyes flashed with light, and she whispered, "Young Master Han is crazy, worthy of the Master's sword." Ye Chen tapped Han Zhao's eyebrows with his sword finger, and the soul-destroying sword poured in like the Milky Way. Han Zhao's meridians roared like thunder, sweat and blood dripped mixedly, and the spiritual fragrance at the tip of his nose overcame the rotten smell of tobacco and wine. His face twisted and screamed, "Master." The sword energy penetrated into the soul, and the bone marrow burned. The surrounding men's legs weakened and backed away, staring and exclaiming, "Young Master Han is twitching. Spiritual root blasting." The master of the Ye family is at the peak of foundation building with one finger. Ye Chen's voice was calm. "Dan, the first form of swordsmanship, soul chasing and strangulation. Concentrate energy in Dantian, follow your heart, and use the sword with no regrets." Han Shao stood up with gritted teeth, aura leaked out of the sleeves of his robe, and the new sword's aura flashed for the first time. He tried to swing the sword, the air tore and buzzed, the table legs shattered into powder, sawdust hit their faces, nosebleeds gushed out from his men, and they roared, "Han Xianjian comes out. One move breaks the table like paper, our black and white Taoists kneel before the sword." The guidance was instantaneous. Ye Chen's eyes turned to Lin Yuyan, fairy information. She showed the jade slip with her jade hand, and the aura reflected on her pretty face was cold. "Sir, Lin family spies intercepted." Yi Ji summoned the second time, not only ambushed, but also colluded with Lin family's outsiders. "The meeting of the top 10 aristocratic families has been decided." Yuanying ancestor came to suppress Yi in person. Han Zhao's pupils shrank, punching the wall filled with dust, his voice trembling and roaring, "Then bitch. She pinched the jade talisman when she was kneeling in the hall. I saw her wrong. Master, kill her with one sword." The subordinates turned pale and whispered, "Yi Ji is a traitor. Collusion with Yuanying. The Yi family is going to die." Lin Yuyan's beautiful eyes were gloomy. "Sister Ji's ambition, the master has known about it. Yuyan is willing to personally investigate the secrets of the Lin family." Ye Chen mocked, "Yi Ji aunt, first destroy the black market and seize the spiritual stone to replenish the family fortune." The three of them joined forces and swept Han Shao and Lin Yuyan out of the mansion with sword light and headed straight to the city's underground black market. The night was deep, the hidden entrance flashed under the neon lights, and the mortal bodyguards were guarding it with the smell of alcohol and wine. They blocked the way with a sinister smile, "Black market forbidden immortal, get out." Han Shao burst out with spiritual pressure to establish his foundation, and with a wave of his sword, the bodyguard's throat burst with blood mist, and the body fell to the ground twitching, bloody nose. The internal black market was dimly lit, with piles of spiritual stones like hills. The smell of sweat and decay mixed with the fragrance of spiritual beings. Hundreds of foundation building cultivators were trading magic weapons. The hustle and bustle was like a market. The Yi family is in civil strife, and the spiritual stones are being sold at a low price. The alliance is hunting Ye Chen, and the bounty will be doubled. A fat business leader shouted with a sinister smile, "Han Shao, that rich second generation has awakened. What a joke, is a worldly dog worthy of the path to immortality?" Han Shao stepped in, hunted in blood robes, and the sword light flashed over the entire audience. He roared, "I am Han Shao, the #1 immortal of the Yi family. Black market spirit stones, all dedicated to the master." The casual cultivators erupted in ridicule, with a scar on their faces. Humming, "Boy, it's the end of the Yi family. The black market won't accept waste. Break your legs and throw them into the street." Han Zhao's sword intention was running, his meridians were burning and his legs were weak and he was half kneeling. He was sweating like rain and gritting his teeth, "Master, these dogs are mocking my life." The casual cultivators laughed like thunder, and the dust of the spirit stones in their noses hit their nostrils. Someone sprayed wine, "Rich dog is kneeling. Ye Chen is bragging about swordsmanship. He is also a grandson in the black market." In an instant, the soul-destroying sword sounded like 10,000 swords in unison. Ye Chen's figure appeared silently, his black clothes melted into the shadows, the sword rainbow poured down, the dome of the black market tore with a loud noise, and the gravel fell like rain and jingled. The fat merchant leader's plump face was twisted, and his vertical pupils shrank. Ye Chen. The golden elixir sword is overwhelming." His spiritual shield exploded like paper, the sword light penetrated the dantian, and the blood hole gushed out with fishy heat. He held his belly and rolled over, screaming, "It hurts. The internal organs are crushed." The 10 guards pinched the magic weapon together, and the fireball thunder the net blasted out with an ear-piercing roar, but the silver rainbow collapsed into powder. Their eyes widened and their throats clucked. The sword energy is invisible, senior brother, the sword enters the soul. Han Shao laughed wildly and stood up. The new sword followed and strangled. The 3 guards' eyebrows exploded and blood splashed on the wall, and their bodies twitched and fell to the ground. The whole place was dead silent. The legs of the cultivators were weak, the urine was urinating, the yellow and turbid rivers were mixed with blood, the stench was soaring to the sky, and someone screamed, "Ye family's sword immortal." Master Han Shao's sword assistant, kill 11 to build the foundation in an instant. Lin Yuyan wore a jade curtain to protect Han Shao, her beautiful eyes shone, young master's swordsmanship, Yuyan admires you. Ye Chen hummed lightly, all the black market spiritual stones will go to the Ye family. The leader of the casual cultivators crawled out and rubbed the blood on his knees, his voice trembling like a leaf, Master Ye, spare your life. I offer you all the spiritual stones, please take my guard. Ye Chen tapped his sword finger, and the mountain of spiritual stones collapsed into his bag, and the spiritual light shone on the faces of everyone in the audience. Han Shao punched the spirit stone to test his sword, the fragments flew and jingled, and he roared, Master, this sword is awesome. The black market kneels down to the Ye family, I add the spirit mine to my industry, and dominate the city. The black market was instantly suppressed, the Ye family's resources surged, spiritual stones were transported to the Ye family's ancient house, and the stock price soared. Ye Chen and the others plundered out of the black market and patrolled the abandoned buildings in the East District with their swords. Suddenly they heard a sarcastic smile, Ye Chen. The abandoned son killed the elder by chance, is he qualified to sweep the black market? The snobbish patriarch of a small family led 20 people to build a foundation and surrounded the legal chariot to block the road. The market line is monopolized. The Ye family is doomed, get out. The children of the Zhao family ridiculed, abandoned son of a swordsman. Bragging. The owner of the family crushed him like a worm with one finger. Han Shao was furious, her meridians were stinging when the sword was about to come out, and Lin Yuyan's beautiful eyes were anxious, young master, I am provocative, you are snobbish. Ye Chen's eyes were as bright as lightning, and Xuan in black stepped forward. Before the soul-destroying sword came out, the pure sword intent exploded like a landslide. Patriarch Zhao's eyes narrowed to a pin, and his plump lips trembled, the sword is at the peak of the golden elixir. No. The 20-year-old monks squeezed their spiritual shields together, and they roared up but shattered like glass rain. The sword energy entered the body's 7 orifices and bleeds. Black blood dripped and pattered. They widened their dead eyes and screamed, soul strangulation. Zhao family is dead. The patriarch's first explosion, his head exploded like a watermelon, and the brain splattered with fishy sweetness. The body smashed into the car, and the oil slurry burst into flames. The remaining internal organs slid out and sizzled on the floor, fear forever fixed in his eyes. All passers-by watched the live broadcast from a distance and screamed, determined to destroy the Zhao family. Ye Chen slaughtered 20 foundations without a sword, hence from a small clan, the difference in status is huge. Han Shao was ecstatic with blood on his face and kowtowed loudly, Master, the power of the mine. The Zhao family mine belongs to me, and the Ye family empire will rise. Lin Yuyan's hands trembled in admiration, young master is determined to slap the snobbery in the face, Yuyan is convinced. The Ye family's industry has skyrocketed, and the black market resources of the Lingshire mine have poured in. In the ancient house, the formation was full of aura, and the disciples glared and whispered, the master of the house is invincible. The small clan kneels like a dog, how dare the top 10 families come? Ye Chen put away his sword and smiled lightly, Ye Ji colluded, the intelligence was locked, and returned to the house to meet the enemy. The 3 of them returned home with sword lights, and the night wind was faintly thundering. In front of the mountain gate of the Ye family's ancient house, the second wave of shattered afterglow appeared. Han Zhao's men were transporting spiritual stones to pile up the mountain. Ye Chen with white hair knelt down to greet him. The master of the family has returned. The industry is booming and the resources are full. Suddenly, the dark clouds in the sky came over. Yi Ji's pretty face was twisted and she received hundreds of golden elixirs. High-level spiritual pressure was like a tsunami, and the nascent soul's breath was hidden behind now. She screamed with a sinister smile, Ye Chen. You are just slaying the small enemy. The ancestor of the Lin family's Yuanying is coming in person, and the Yi family will be bloodbath tonight. The disciples' faces turned pale and their legs were weak, and the fear of blood reappeared. Some people murmured, Sister Ji takes the Yuanying. The family is in danger. Thunder was rolling, and the crisis was like a knife hanging from the ceiling. In front of the mountain gate of the Yi family's ancient house, the night wind was like a knife scraping the bones. The second burst of shattered afterglow was as dim as a candle, and the rumble of the mountains of spiritual stones being transported into the inner palace suddenly stopped. The disciples' faces were as white as paper, their legs were weak and they were kneeling on the ground. The smell of sweat mixed with blood hit their nostrils. Some people had gurgling throats and murmured in despair, Sister Ji, bring 100 gold elixir. The spiritual pressure of the nascent soul behind is like a landslide. The master of the house, the Yi family is finished. Yi Tianxiong's white hair was trembling, while the foundation building spiritual power was running, but the meridians were countervailing and he coughed up blood, spraying the floor tiles. His old eyes were round, and his voice was hoarse, Master, retreat. The nascent soul is here in person, bloodbath is certain. Han Xiao hunted in his blood robe, his new sword buzzed unsteadily, his legs were weak with meridian fire thorns, and he shouted with a heavy breath, Master. I have built a new foundation, and I can't kill dogs like nascent soul. Lin Yuyan, in white clothes, clenched her jade pendant, her spiritual light trembled slightly on the water screen, and her beautiful eyes anxiously glanced at the dark clouds in the sky. Sir, the information is wrong and leaked. The golden elixirs of the outsiders of the Lin family are moving together. Jiang Chen's remaining members should have opened a side door. Thunder exploded in the distance. Yi Ji's pretty face was twisted like a ghost, her white dress was stained with blood. She led 100 golden elixir monks to step on the clouds. High-level spiritual pressure poured out like a tsunami. The stone tiles on the ground were broken inch by inch, and dust hit her face mixed with the scorching smell of spiritual fire. Behind him, the ancestor of nascent soul was hidden in the clouds. His aura was as thick as Mount Tai, and there were faint thunder arcs jumping and dazzling. She screamed with a sinister smile, her voice like a silver needle piercing the soul, Ye Chen. Your abandoned son was lucky enough to slaughter a few people to build the foundation, and you are worthy of the family leader. Elder Jiang Chen's old troops have responded internally, and the back door of the formation has been opened. The Yi family is bleeding like a river tonight, and the Lin family has annexed your industry ore. After saying this, the side door exploded, and Jiang Chen's remaining party members were 10. Yu Zhuji turned his back and rushed out, grinning ferociously in his black robe, and the magic weapon of spiritual fire roared towards Yi Tianxiong, traitor, head of the family, die. The disciples screamed and collapsed, some people with their pants yellow and filled with stench. They knelt down and kowtowed, spare your life. Sister Ji, spare your life. Ye Chen is bragging about the swordsman. Jin Dan is besieging him, let him wet his pants. Han Zhao's pupils shrank, his sword intent moved, soul chasing and strangulation exploded, the silver light of his new sword tore through the air, slashing towards the remaining party members at the side door. The throats of the 3 foundation builders exploded with bloody mist and fishy heat, their corpses dragged on the ground and their internal organs slid out. He roared and stood up with weak legs, Master. Traitor dogs, kill 3 of them happily. Lin Yuyan waved her beautiful hand, and the water curtain was like a tide to protect her disciples. Her beautiful legs trembled and she stood firm, her pretty face was red. Hong whispered, Brother Han protects the family, Yu Yan cuts off the queen. Yi Tianxiong's old sword was unsheathed, and the peak of spiritual pressure foundation building hit the remaining party. The fire flashed and jingled. He coughed up blood and stepped back and stared. The master's power is still there, the Ye family will not be destroyed. The disciples in the audience were whispering, and their faces were twisted with fear. Young Master Han has 3 explosions with 1 sword. Fairy Lin's water curtain saves lives, but the nascent soul can hold him down. Where is the master? Yi Ji burst into laughter, needing the magic weapon with hundreds of gold elixirs, fireballs, thunder nets and spiritual swords like heavy rain pouring towards the mountain gate. The roar was deafening, gravels fell like rain and jingled, and the heat wave hit his face with the smell of burnt meat. Her plump lips trembled and taunted, Ye Chen, why are you shrinking? The urban live broadcast swordsman blows the sword, and hundreds of people wet their pants when they see the golden elixir. The ancestor of nascent soul will crush you like a worm with 1 finger. The golden elixir monks laughed like thunder, and the smoke of spiritual fire filled the air at their noses. Some people he sprayed wine and roared, the abandoned son of the Yi family, kneel down and lick Fairy Ji. The mind spirit stones will all belong to the Lin family. At the peak of the crisis, the Yi family's spiritual light formation collapsed and buzzed, and the disciples clasped their heads and ran around screaming, dead. The golden core rain will destroy the family. In an instant, the soul-destroying sword sounded like a 9-day thunder calamity. Ye Chen, dressed in black, stepped out of the mountain gate with 1 step. The sword rainbow poured down from the Milky Way, the night sky tore with a loud sound, and the neon-reflected sword light was as dazzling as the sun. His eyes swept across Yi Ji's twisted pretty face with indifference, and his low voice shook his soul, Yi Ji, the ants have rebelled, are you worthy of calling the formation? Before the sword intention came out, pure spiritual pressure exploded like a landslide and tsunami. More than 10 people in the front row of Jindan had their pupils shrunk, and their spiritual shields shattered like paper. Snap, their throats gurgled, black blood dripped from their 7 orifices, their eyes widened and they screamed, the sword presses the peak of the golden elixir, soul is twisted. Sister Ji, save. The internal organs of the corpse burst out and sizzled on the ground, and the black blood flowed down the ditch, and the stench rose to the sky. The whole place was dead silent. The golden core cultivator retreated with weak legs. He was sweating like rain and his urine was turbid. Someone was gushing out nosebleeds and murmuring, 1 intention to kill 10 golden cores. Ye Chen has no sword to destroy the soul, monster. Yi Ji's pretty face turned as white as a ghost. She coughed up blood as her foundation-building spiritual power counterattacked. Her beautiful eyes trembled and screamed, impossible. How can your abandoned son match the golden core realm swordsmanship? Yuanying ancestor, kill. Nascent soul aura surged in the clouds behind, but the thunder arc was faintly hesitant. Han Shao was ecstatic with blood on his face. He knelt forward and kowtowed. His new sword buzzed to kill the remaining gangsters at the side door. 2 more corpses exploded and their brains spattered. He roared tremblingly, Master's power. His intent is explosive, and the golden elixir is like a dog. Lin Yuyan's water curtain expanded the mountain gate, her beautiful legs trembled and she whispered in admiration, young Master Jianhong, Yuyan is intoxicated, the rain of golden elixir shatters like paper. Ye Chen smiled lightly, the soul-destroying sword was finally unsheathed, the silver rainbow swept through the 100 golden pills like a tornado, the sword energy strangled invisible, the air was torn and buzzed harshly, the 20 golden pills in the front row counterattacked with magic weapons, the fire and thunder roared and collided with the silver rainbow and collapsed into powder. They widened their eyes and were stunned, the sword enters the Dantian, Sister Ji, our souls are shattered. The blood hole gushed out with fishy heat, the corpse smashed to the ground and was sticky, and the internal organs were dragging and sizzling. Yi Ji's pretty face twisted and retreated, her white dress stained with blood. She summoned the spirit vines to wrap around her sword, but it shattered like firewood in an instant. She pinched the magic weapon with trembling hands and ran away, Ye Chen. You, Elder too, are lucky, now nascent soul will destroy you. The remnants of the golden elixir were scattered in all directions, and the blood mist on their noses was bloody. Some people knelt down and urinated and yelled, "The swordsman is unparalleled. The Ye family is immortal, Sister Ji is a traitor." Han Zhao's sword intention was to pursue the soul and strangle him, and the forehead of his eyebrows exploded with blood. His meridians were aching, but he stood up with laughter. "Master passed down the sword, and my disciple killed the golden elixir happily." Jiang Chen's remaining party, all exploded. Lin Yuyen wore a jade sword like a net, and after breaking the golden elixir leg, blood spurted out. Her beautiful eyes shone. "Brother Han's mad sword, you have done a good job in protecting the family." Ye Tianxiong's old sword assist killed the inside. His gray hair was stained with blood and he shouted excitedly, "The master of the house has 25 golden elixirs with one sword." Ye family disciples, witnessed the miracle. The disciples burst into cheers from despair, the live broadcast on their mobile phones flashed dazzlingly, and the barrage rushed. Ye Chen slaughtered hundreds of golden elixirs. Urban Sword Emperor, Ji traitor kneels down. Passers-by watched from a distance and screamed, "Invincible." The Yi family's stock price skyrocketed, and the black and white roads licked the screen. Yi Ji was finally trapped by the net of sword energy. Her pretty face was pale and she knelt down, kowtowing. Blood marks oozed from her forehead. Her white skirt was soaked and turned yellow. Her voice was trembling and she cried, "Cousin, spare my life. The Lin family forced me. Jiang Chen promised to be the head of the family. I was wrong." Ye Chen's black clothes fell to the ground dustlessly. The sword pointed at the center of her eyebrows, and her spiritual pressure was like a needle piercing her soul. She twitched and screamed, "It hurts. The soul is burning." The remaining members of the Golden Corps in the audience knelt down with weak legs, and the Yuanian clouds escaped and the thunder disappeared. Someone murmured, "Sister Ji captured. Yuanian scared away. Yi Chengxianzhen." Han Xiao punched the ground and dust hit his face, shouting, "Master, execute the traitor. Revitalize the Yi family." Ye Chen hummed, lightly swung the soul-killing sword. Yi Ji's dantian burst into pieces and blood spurted out. She held her belly and rolled over, dragging her internal organs on the ground, and the black blood pooled into the river. Her beautiful eyes widened in despair and she breathed out, "Yi Chen." Jiang Chen captured all the rest of the party and beheaded them in front of the public mountain gate. His head rolled down and his brains splashed on the ground, and his disciples breathed. He knelt down in deep admiration. "The master of the house has rebelled. The Jiang faction is in ruins, and the Yi family will be strong forever." Lin Yuyen pressed Ye Chen's arm lightly with her beautiful hand, her beautiful eyes misty. "Young master is unparalleled. Yuyen vows to follow you to eliminate hidden enemies." Han Xiao kowtowed and said loudly, "Master, the industrial ore veins are full of spiritual stones, and the black and white in the city are kneeling and licking. The top 10 aristocratic families are scared to death. The ancient house of the Yi family is ablaze again, the recasting of the Grand Array is buzzing, the stock price is skyrocketing, and the live broadcast is sensationalizing the world. The whispers in the immortal circle are going viral. Ye Chen slaughtered 30 golden elixirs with one sword, and the Yuanian escaped. The city dominates, and the Yi family empire rises. The disciples glared and whispered, "The master of the family is in the realm of swordsmanship, a small ant, and the 10 famous families dare to come to die." Ye Tianxiong turned white and shed tears. Streaming, his voice trembled, "Holy power of the family, the Yi family is reborn." Ye Chen put away his sword and smiled lightly, scanning the night sky, "Supply resources, prepare for war against the supreme sect." After finishing his words, a purple light flashed in the distance, and the messenger's figure loomed, and his deep voice rolled like thunder, "Little friend Ye Chen, the supreme sect is paying attention, and we are recruiting peace and discussion. Don't refuse." Crisis was surging, and the sound of the sword was faint. The night wind turns cold like ghosts crying, and the large array of spiritual lights in front of the mountain gate of the Yi family's ancient house is faintly trembling and buzzing, although it is strong, as if they are afraid of the expansion of the purple light in the distant sky. The purple light was like a poisonous python swallowing, tearing through the night and falling to the ground with a thunderous sound. An old man with white hair and a childish face appeared, and the spiritual pressure of the middle stage of nascent soul around him was smashed down like an invisible giant hammer. The stone bricks on the ground were cracked, and the debris hit his face mixed with the smell of burning sulfur. The disciples' knees went weak and they all knelt down, their faces as white as wax, beads of sweat rolled down their backs and soaked their robes. Some of them swallowed with a lump in their throats, breathing heavily and murmuring, "The envoy of the sect. Nascent soul is here in person. Spiritual pressure is crushing bones, how can the head of the family stop this?" Ye Chen old eyes widened, his white hair fluttered as his meridians surged and he coughed up blood again, splattering the floor tiles a bright red. He kowtowed with a trembling voice, "Sir, please forgive me, the Ye family is newly established, and the resources are still scarce." The messenger hunted in purple robes, his eyes swept across the crowd with sinister eyes, and the mellow aroma of spirit wine mixed with blood hit his nostrils. He snorted coldly like thunder, deafening the ears, "Young friend Ye Chen. Humph, an abandoned son was lucky enough to kill the golden elixir and scare off the Yuanying ancestor of the Lin family, so he thought he was the urban sword emperor. The emperor pays attention to you and invites you to be safe. The discussion is simple, the spirit stone veins, the black market industry, and the Zhao family's inheritance must all be handed over. The Yi family will pay tribute to the sect in exchange for protection, otherwise. After saying this, he waved his sleeves and robes, and the purple light turned into thousands of needle shadows and buzzed in the sky, the skin burned, white smoke and blood seeped out, they held their heads and screamed sharply and stabbed their souls, "It hurts. Their souls are burning. Please forgive me." Han Zhao's blood robe was stained with dust, the new sword buzzed and was unstable, veins popped out in his hand, his legs were weak and half-kneeling, his breath was hot and roaring but his voice was trembling, "Shangzong dog. Master, at the age of 30, you nascent souls are also running away. How dare you squeeze resources?" Lin Yuyan's white clothes clung to her jade body, her beautiful eyes filled with anxious water mist, her jade hands holding the water curtain slightly trembling to protect the crowd, she whispered with a blushing face, "Young master, the Shangzong is powerful, and the hidden enemies in the city are not yet clear, first stabilize. Yu Yan swears to follow." Ye Chen, dressed in black, stood at the gate of the mountain. His eyes were as cold as the abyss. The soul-destroying sword's sheath was still ringing. The pure spiritual pressure rebounded quietly, causing the shadow of the messenger's needle to disintegrate and jingle. He smiled softly and said, "Sir. I'm an ant handing you a note, but you also deserve resources. Get lost." The whole place was dead silent. The messenger's crane hair stood on end, and the spiritual pressure of the nascent soul surged like a landslide and tsunami. Pouring, the air was distorted, the heat wave hit his face, and the thunder arc dazzled the ozone. He smiled ferociously and trembled with his plump lips, arrogant abandonment. 30 sects in the sect alliance, 5 nascent souls, and thousands of golden elixirs have gathered in the border town early. If you refuse, the Yi family will be bloodbathed. Without resources within 3 days, the coalition forces will be crushed. Purple light flashed and escaped into the air. The aftermath of the shock shook the spiritual light of the formation and shook it to pieces. The disciples screamed and collapsed, and the yellow urine filled the ground with a stench. Some people spurted nosebleeds and murmured, "Allied forces are pressing the border." The 5 nascent souls. What about the master swordsman? The Yi family is finished. Kneeling and licking in the black and white way is useless, the Shangzong destroyed the city with one finger. Yi Tianxiong. The old sword fell to the ground, his gray face twisting and coughing blood. "Master, the sect is snobbish, maybe handing over resources. No, holy power is here, swear to death." Han Shao punched the ground with dust on his face, his meridians were burning with thorns and roared and his legs were weak. "Master. I have a new foundation, I am happy to kill the golden elixir, the nascent soul alliance. I wet my pants. Lin Yuyan's beautiful legs trembled slightly as she stepped forward, her jade hand gently pressed Ye Chen's arm, and the coolness of the water seeped into her meridians. Her pretty face turned red and she lowered her head and kowtowed, her beautiful eyes filled with mist. Young Master Wushuang, Yuyan is the abandoned daughter of the Lin family. She has long admired Jianhong, and now she swears to help her to the death. The intelligence hall is open, the hidden enemies in the city are being wiped out, the remnants of the Lin family, the secret sentries of the top 10 families, and the spiritual cultivators of the underworld are all under control. Yuyan, her heart belongs to the young master, and she will follow him in life and death. Ye Chen's eyes flashed slightly, and the spiritual energy on her forehead was injected to stabilize her pulse. Her delicate body trembled and her pretty face flushed and she whispered, "Young master ends." Yuyan's dantian is filled with warmth, and her spiritual power is surging. Han Zhao's pupils were filled with joy. He swallowed the high-grade elixir in the pile of spiritual stones. His meridians roared like a volcano erupting. His foundation-building spiritual power surged to the midterm peak. His joints crackled and his blood surged to the sky. He laughed wildly. The sword silver light shines brightly, Master preaches. Disciple builds the foundation and ascends, try killing the nascent soul dog. The disciples whisper, their faces contorted with fear and admiration. Fairy Lin confesses her love and kowtows. Master Han's meridians thunder and build the foundation at the peak. But the coalition forces are pressing down, and the black clouds are overthrown. Ye Chen pointed his sword at the night sky and ordered with a sneer, "Sweep out the hidden enemies in the city, gather all the resources, and prepare for the war against Shangzong." Han Xiao leads the vanguard, Lin Yuyan is behind, and Yi Tianxiong is in charge. Whoever dares to respond internally will be killed. After saying this, the black-clothed hunter led the crowd to rush out of the mountain gate, flying swords buzzed across the night sky and the neon lights were dazzling, and the motorcade roared like thunder and headed straight for the dark area of the city. The night is deep, there are many hidden enemies under the sea of neon lights, the remaining members of the Lin family are hiding in the abandoned factory, the ghost fire is flickering, the ozone is hitting the nostrils, more than 10 golden elixirs in the early stage are smiling ferociously and pinching the magic weapon, Ye Chen Tuji sister 100 gold pill. Shangzong's coalition forces will destroy Yi in 3 days, let's rob the mine and have fun. Han Xiao Jianhong arrived first, chasing the soul and strangled the sky with a buzzing sound, the 3 golden pills vertical pupil shrinking needles, the spiritual shield shattered, and there was a bloody hole in the dantian. The hot internal organs gushed out and sizzled on the ground. They opened their eyes wide and screamed, 3 explosions with 1 sword in the middle stage of foundation building. Han Dog Monster. Han Zhao's meridians roared with fire, master swordsmanship, Zaire and other insects. The golden elixir thunder net in the back roared loudly, and the heat wave hit the face with the smell of scorched meat. His new sword trembled slightly and his legs weakened and backed away, nosebleeds dripping, and he murmured, "The number of golden elixirs, I can't hold it. Master, save me." The crisis is approaching, Lin Yuyan's water curtain expands like a tide to protect Han, the water blades are like a net, strangling 2 golden elixirs, breaking their legs and spurting blood, her beautiful eyes whisper anxiously, "Brother Han, hold on, the young master is here." Ye Chen's soul-destroying sword has not been released, and the pure sword intention swept through the factory like an invisible storm. The air tore and buzzed harshly, the souls of the 5 golden elixirs in the front row were crushed, and the black blood from the 7 orifices flowed into the stream. The corpse twitched and the internal organs burst out sticky. Their throats gurgled and died, the golden elixir of sword intention, the soul is destroyed. Eugene Don's legs were weak and he knelt down and collapsed. The yellow turbidity filled the air, and someone screamed, "Sword Emperor Ye Chen. Even the Supreme Sect can't save him." The disciples stared at the convoy from a distance and whispered, "Sweat, smell, and blood mixed together, young Master Han built a foundation and ascended to assist in the killing. Fairy Lin broke her leg with a water blade. The master's idea was to twist the 5 golden elixirs. The hidden enemy is dead. But the Shangzong coalition forces are under a mountain of pressure. The sweep continued, and they went straight to the underground of the black market. The fat merchant leader Yu Dang led 20 guards to ambush. The fireballs of the spiritual fire magic weapon rained down, and the heat wave burned the bones and the smelly smoke hit the nose. Han Zhao's sword intent burst out to pursue the soul, killing the 4 guards between their eyebrows, and their brains spattered with sweet taste. He was ecstatic, but his meridians were rushing back and he was coughing up blood. The foundation building is at its peak, the fat dog's spiritual pressure is perfect, it can't be strangled. Lin Yuyenyu wears a waterspout. After the sweep was over, the protective water curtain shattered and jingled, and her beautiful legs trembled and her pretty face turned pale. The black market whistles are all going, and the information has been leaked. Young Master. The fat businessman pinched the jade beads with a ferocious smile, and the spirit exploded like thunder and fell down, and the ground exploded and gravel rained down. Bang bang, several of the disciples' bones were broken and blood spurted out, screaming, "The power of the nascent soul is so powerful." The family leader said, "I can't hold on." Ye Chen stood on the roof of the car calmly, his eyes were contemptuous. The soul-destroying sword trembled slightly but did not come out. The sword energy invisible net covered the whole place. The fat businessman's eyes exploded, his dantian shrunk and blood gushed out. He held his belly and rolled his internal organs, dragging them with him. He glared at the black blood and breathed out, "The foundation of the sword network is complete." Immortal Lord. The corpses of all the guards were sticky and smashed to the ground, and the blood mist filled the sky. The whole place was dead silent. The disciples knelt on their knees and worshipped with trembling words. The master's sword net instantly killed more than 20 people. The black market was wiped out, and the resources were full. However, there was faint thunder in the distance, and black clouds were overwhelming like ink pouring down. Han Xiao breathed heavily and swept the sky. Master, is there any news about the coalition forces?" The intelligence said that thousands of golden elixirs have been gathered in the border city, and nascent soul is crushing them with their 5 fingers. Lin Yuyen's intelligence jade slip flashed, her beautiful eyes trembled as she whispered, "Sir, the top 10 aristocratic families secretly joined forces with the Shangzong, and the rest of the party escaped into the subway spirit cave to ambush Qianzhuji plus by Jindan. The vanguard of the coalition forces is approaching, and the spiritual pressure is like a tsunami. 3 days. Maybe tonight." Ye Tianxiong said in a hoarse voice from afar, "Master, the spy from the ancient house has reported that the sex envoys have returned in anger, and they have summoned 30 sects to cover the sky. If the spirit stone veins are not handed over, the bloodbath is certain." The disciples turned pale, ran away with their heads in their hands and screamed. The stench of sweat and urine filled the air, and some people murmured in despair, "How good is it to wipe out the hidden enemies?" The 5 masters of the Yuaning and the sword immortal also kneeled down. The Yi family's stock price collapsed, and the black and white road was so scared that they fled. Ye Chen sheathed his sword and smiled lightly. Wu Chen in black jumped to the top of the highest building. His eyes pierced the black clouds in the night sky. The soul-destroying sword buzzed and whispered, "Kill the hidden enemies and expand the mind veins 10 times. Han Zhao's foundation is at the peak, and Lin Yuyen's intelligence network is expanded. Prepare for war. Shangzong ants, come here to die." Han Xiao kowtowed, and the new sword-assisted killer's brain exploded, and he roared tremblingly, "Master's divine calculation." At the edge of the golden elixir of the disciples' meridian, Zai Yuanying tried the sword. Lin Yuyan whispered closely, her beautiful eyes misty, "Young master, calm down, hey, clouds are pressing down on the city, and the allied army's spirit boat has appeared in the suburbs with flashes of lightning and murderous intent. Yu Yan is heartbroken and vows to follow them to sweep away." In the sky of the outer suburbs, the purple-black spirit boat is floating in the sky like a mountain, and the 5 rays of nascent soul's aura are intertwined like the top of Mount Tai, and thunder arcs are jumping and dazzling. Shocking to the soul, the disciples' mobile phone live broadcast barrages were filled with fear. The allied forces of the Shang Zone are approaching. Sword Emperor Ye Chen is dead. The whole world is shaken, and the city is doomed. The crisis tightened like a net, black clouds swallowed up the stars, the faint sound of swords continued, and the lights of the Ye family flickered. The night wind is like a knife scraping bones, and under the neon lights on the highest building, Ye Chen is dressed in black and looking alone. His eyes pierce the ink above the black clouds, the thunder arc of the spirit boat in the outer suburbs jumps and roars to shake the soul, and the murderous aura hits his face like a tsunami mixed with scorched thunder and ozone. He smelled an omen of blood at the end of his nose, and the soul-destroying sword scabbard murmured like a dragon's roar. His spiritual pressure quietly converged, and the ferocious smile of the sex envoy flashed in his mind. 5 nascent souls, thousands of golden elixirs, an alliance of ants, 30 sects. The Ye family. The resources are full, the mineral veins are tenfold, and the black market spiritual stones are piled up, but they are like ants in a hot pot. The disciples are urinating and screaming. Power, cut off the retreat. The surrounding 3 medium-sized families secretly communicated with the Shangzong, and Lin Yuyan had the information. They destroyed them and looted the treasures. After thinking about it, he turned around with a smile, his black eyes locked on Han Xiao and Lin Yuyan who were kneeling and panting, and his voice was as low as the sound of a sword. Han Xiao, Lin Yuyan, kowtow your allegiance to the Ye family. The Ye family is ancient, and today the clan is established, only the sword is the only one. Han Xiao's vertical pupils shrank, the new sword buzzed with silver light, the edge of the golden elixir in his meridians was burning, his knees banged on the ground and gravel flew, nosebleed dripped and mixed with the sweet smell of dust, and the roar shook his throat. Giggle, Master's holy power. Disciple Han Xiao swore to be the first disciple of the Ye family. He killed the Yuanying dog with his sword, and his liver and brain were all smeared to the ground. Lin Yuyan's white clothes clung to her jade body, her beautiful legs trembled as she stepped forward, and kowtowed with her jade hands. Her forehead slapped against the ground, her beautiful eyes were full of mist, and she murmured heartily, Master of the young master family, the abandoned daughter of the Yuyan Lin family, early heart belongs to Jianhong, now she joins the Ye family to serve as the master of the intelligence hall, the water curtain protects the sect, and the intelligence network expands. We will accompany you to death, life and death. Her pretty face turned crimson, the warm current in her dantian surged, her spiritual power surged, the water spirit rushed straight to the edge of the golden elixir, the jade pendant buzzed and the water light expanded to protect the roof, the coolness seeped into her bones and relaxed her muscles. The disciples' motorcade downstairs looked out into the distance, their eyes widened with sweat rolling down, and some people swallowed their throats and murmured, establish a sect? Young Master Han kowtows and roars, Fairy Lin kowtows to the ground to express her love. The master of the family said, the edge of the peak golden elixir of foundation building? Ye's sect, the sword immortal personally established it, even the allied forces are pressing down on the border and cannot stop it. The thunder of the spirit boat in the outer suburbs intensified, black clouds poured down like ink, and the 5 rays of nascent soul's breath intertwined and pressed against the top of Mount Tai. The disciples' mobile phone barrages were filled with fear. Ye Chen set up the sect to die. The murderous spirit of the sect's spirit boat is soaring into the sky, and the city is doomed. Ye Chen tapped his sword finger between the 2 people's eyebrows, and pure spiritual power poured in like a river. Han Zhao's joints crackled and his blood filled the air as he laughed wildly. His new sword Yinhong surged and tried to strangle the soul. The air tore and buzzed harshly. Lin Yuyan's delicate body trembled and a curtain of water turned into a tornado and swept over the roof. The heat wave and the mist hit her face to cool her face. Their eyes were twisted in admiration, and Han Xiao roared with a rough breath, Master's grace. The golden elixir of the meridians is unlocked, and the foundation is completed. Lin Yuyan lowered her head and her pretty face flushed, young Master Lingzi, the water spirit golden elixir is transformed. The sect is prosperous. Ye Chen turned around and jumped off the roof indifferently. He was dressed in black and fell onto the roof of the car. The soul-killing sword scabbard rang out, "The intelligence hall is open, Lin Yuyan. There are 3 medium-sized families in the surrounding area, the remnants of the Zhao family, the Qian family's spiritual cave, and the Sun family's mining village, secret communication. Zong, set up the vanguard of the spirit boat. Sweep it, loot the treasures of martial arts, and expand the sect. Han Xiao will lead the front, and I will cut off the rear." Lin Yuyan's beautiful eyes flashed anxiously. "Sir, the surrounding information is all over the network, and the 3 families have 50 golden elixirs, 300 foundations were built, Zhong Yuanying's hidden sentry was buried in the hidden flying sword formation, Yuyan's water net was used to explore the way, avoid the ambush first. Han Zhao's new sword hunted, his legs were weak and excited, master's calculation. Disciple kills 50 golden elixirs, tests the edge of the golden elixir." The motorcade rumbled like thunder, heading straight to surrounding cities. The neon lights on the night roads were dazzling, and the aura of abandoned roads was rich in ozone. The first stop is the village of the remnants of the Zhao family, hidden in the foggy valley. The ghostly light of the spirit fire flickers. 50 golden elixirs build the foundation and 300 ambush flying sword arrays buzz. The leader of the village in the late golden elixir stage pinches the spirit beads with a ferocious smile. Ye Chen refuses to go to the sect. "The Alliance's vanguard spirit boat protects me, the sword kill the black market in an instant. Bloodbath the convoy tonight, and the mines will return to the sect." Han Xiao Jianhong rushed forward first, strangled Shi Zhuji with silver light and strangled his eyebrows, and their brains spattered sweetly. Their corpses twitched and their internal organs exploded, and they died with their eyes wide open. Foundation building is completed with 1 sword and 10 explosions. Korean dog monster. The leader of the village shrank his pupils, the flying sword formation and the thunder net roared, the heat wave burned the bones, the smell of flesh hit his face. Han Xiaoxin's sword trembled slightly, the meridians reversed, he coughed up blood, nosebleeds spurted out, his legs weakened and he retreated, growling. 50 golden elixir strangulation, master, the formation can't hold it down. The shields of the disciples in the back row shattered and jingled, and several people's bones were broken and blood spurted out, screaming, the power of the nascent soul of the Zhao family phase sword formation. Mr. Han knelt down after completing the foundation building, and the family leader declared death. Lin Yuyan's water tornado exploded to protect Han, the water blade was like a net, cutting off the metal elixir, and blood spurted out from her legs. Her beautiful eyes were trembling with water mist. "Sir, the information has been leaked, the Zhao family secretly has the Yuanying of the Supreme Sect secretly sent spiritual pressure to lurk." The crisis was approaching. Ye Chen stood calmly on the roof of the car, his eyes despising the abyss. Before the soul-destroying sword came out, an invisible storm of pure sword intent swept through the village, the air tore and buzzed, the flying sword array collapsed and jingled, thousands of broken swords fell like rain, and the souls of 20 golden pills were crushed into 7 orifices. Clap, sword intent transformation. The soul of the golden core is destroyed in the later stage. The leader of the village held his head and rolled over his dantian. Blood holes gushed out, and he stared with black blood on the ground and breathed out, "Sword Emperor Ye Chen. Sect save." The remnant's legs were weak and he knelt down with yellow turbid urine filled with stench. Some people screamed and collapsed, 50 golden elixirs for an instant kill. The Zhao family is dead, the storehouse of spiritual stones and treasures is full. The disciples stared at the smell of sweat and blood, and murmured in admiration, "The master's sword is stormy, the flying sword array is shattered into pieces." Han Xiaofu kills, Fairy Lin's water blade breaks her leg, Shenzong is invincible. The plundering continued, the thunder spirit sword Ju, and the treasures and spirit beads were piled on the car. The convoy went straight to the Qian family's spiritual cave. The aura deep in the subway was like a swamp and smelled fishy and wet. The Chen family's golden elixir 30 and 200 foundations were built and a water and fire formation was set up. The cave owner smiled sinisterly. Information from the emperor, Ye Chen's sword network is weak in water and fire, and the coalition's spiritual boat is close, so I will destroy it. First. Han Xiao Yinhong broke into the cave and strangled 15 foundations. His brain exploded with blood mist. He was ecstatic and his meridians were in pain and coughed up blood. The edge of the golden elixir is so painful, the cave master's golden elixir peaks spiritual pressure, can't hold it back. The fireballs rained down, the heat wave and the steam burned the bones, and the disciples screamed, bones melting and blood boiling. The Qian family's water and fire array burns the soul. The sect is newly established, and the coalition forces are defeated. Lin Yuyan's jade pendant water curtain expanded to fight, and the water dragon swallowed with fire and steam hit her face. Her pretty face was pale and her beautiful legs were trembling. Sir, the sect has hidden thunder talismans in the cave, avoid it. Ye Chen's sword energy invisible net covered the top of the cave, the stone dome collapsed and rubble fell like rain, and the golden pill the 30-year dantian was twisted and the blood hole gushed out, and the internal organs were sticky. The cave master's vertical pupils shrank and he held his belly and dragged black blood, the peak of the sword network golden elixir. Immortal Lord. The body smashed to the ground and the bloody mist filled the sky. The disciple's legs were weak and he knelt down and trembled. The master's sword network has robbed the Qian family in an instant. The water and fire combined attack technique has been obtained, and the mineral veins of the spiritual cave have expanded. At the third stop, the Sun family mining village, the landslide and the ground cracked. The spiritual pressure was like a mountain. The Sun family golden pill built 70 foundations and 500 foundations. The leader of the village held the nascent soul and secretly whistled the spirit beads and smiled ferociously. 5 lords of the sect came to the outskirts in person. Ye Chen came to see them off. The mining village flying boat formation, crush. Han Xiaojian chased the soul and twisted 20 foundations to build a corpse and exploded. His breath was hot and he roared but his legs were weak and blood spurted out. 500 foundations. Master, nascent soul secretly sent out the spiritual pressure tsunami. The flying boat array flashed with thunder and roared, and the heat wave and ozone hit the face. The disciples scurried and screamed. The Sun family joined the sect, and the sect's iron plate was shattered. The end. Lin Yuyan's intelligence jade slip flashed sharply, and her beautiful eyes were anxiously pressed against Ye Chen's arm. Young master, son, the secret passage from the mountain behind the village leads to the Zhong Lingzhou, and Yuyan's water blade cuts off the road. Ye Chen thought about the game of lightning, nascent soul's secret whistle. Sword Dao transformation, breaking the foundation. The soul-destroying sword finally came out of its sheath, the black light ripped through the sky like a dragon, the sword rainbow went straight into the heart of the village, the Sun family's golden elixir 70 souls choked the black blood of the 7 orifices, and the village master's spirit pearl exploded and dragged the internal organs of the blood hole in the dantian. On the ground, he stared wide-eyed and breathed out, slay 70 with one sword. The swordsman is unparalleled. The flying boat formation collapsed, and the aura of the secret whistle Yuanying fled away with thunder. The disciples' worship collapsed and shouted, destroy the Sun family and plunder the Feizhou Thunder Formation and UNC Spirit Mine, and the sect's resources are 100 times greater. The master of the family's sword rainbow breaks through the sky, and the secret whistle of the Yuanying scares the piss. Back in the city, the lights are brightly lit in front of the ancient house of the Yi clan, the spiritual array is humming for hundreds of miles, and the resources are full of spiritual stones and mountains of elixirs, and the fragrance of elixirs is fragrant. The casual cultivators gathered together after hearing the news. Thousands of foundation-building pills kowtowed with heavy breaths. Sweat rolled down from their breaths. Some people murmured, the Yi family founded the clan, and 3 families were wiped out and looted treasures. The Sword Emperor is unparalleled. The Shangzong's coalition forces are suppressing the situation. Go to the iron plate. Han Zhao's new silver sword protector roared loudly, "Master's holy book, the Yi family is prosperous." Lin Yuyan surrounded the clan with a curtain of water, and her beautiful eyes were mist-whispered, "Young master, there are thousands of loose cultivators, the intelligence network is expanding to the surrounding area, to avoid the ambush of the 30 sects of the sect." Yu Yan is intoxicated. Ye Chen kowtowed to his old sword and coughed up blood in excitement, "Holy power rules the family, the sect's iron army." Ye Chen stood on a high platform, his black-clothed indifferent sword pointed at the sky, "Ye's only sword, sweep away the sect." The whole place turned into wild shouts, their faces twisted in worship and filled with the smell of urine and sweat. The Yi family's rebirth is overwhelming, their industry is expanding, Han Xiao has an iron fist in the secular world, and Ye Chen's flying sword sweeps away hidden enemies, and his reputation spreads across the city. At the top of the mountain in the distance, Yi Ji's message was received by a black shadow. His sinister smile turned cold, "Ye Chen is just wiping out the small enemies. The Lin family meeting has been called. The 10 major families have joined forces to counterattack. The ancestor of Yuanying is coming in person. Yi family, the end is coming. The thunderclouds are overwhelming, crises are coming like a tide, the second mountain gate is shattered, and the hunting team is approaching." The spirit boat was like a black cloud, thunder arcs danced wildly and roared to shatter the night sky. The smell of ozone and thunder mixed with the omen of blood rushed towards the face. The aura of hundreds of Yuanyings poured out like a mountain tsunami. The city lights dimmed instantly. In front of the mountain gate of the ancient house of the Yi family, tens of thousands of casual cultivators hit their knees on the ground and the gravel splashed. Nosebleeds gushed out, mixed with sweat, smelly yellow, some people screamed and collapsed, hundreds of nascent souls. Thousands of golden elixir soul boats are crushing, Ye's newly established, full of resources, but also bloodbath. The master of the family, sword immortal, can't stop it. Han Zhao's new sword silver rainbow hunting protector, the fire thorns in the meridians are like burning blood threads overflowing the mouth. He raised his eyes, shrank his legs, and growled, "Master, the coalition forces upgraded, all 30 sects of Yuanying came out, and the spiritual pressure tsunami broke the meridians." Lin Yuyan's white clothes were stained with blood, and the water curtain turned into a tornado and swept through the mountain gate. The mist was cool and the steam was hot and hit her nose. The mist in her beautiful eyes was scorching, and her jade legs were shaking and clinging to the leaves. Chen Arm murmured, "Sir, the information is wrong and missing. The sect has secretly summoned hundreds of nascent infants to prepare secretly. The sect's spiritual formation cannot suppress it. Yu Yan will protect you." Yi Tianxiong's old sword buzzed and he coughed up blood as he knelt down, the sound of cracking joints was harsh, "Holy power. Ye's iron plates are shattered, casual cultivators are urinating, it's the end." The high-altitude spirit boat split open the golden gate, and the 5 nascent soul peaks descended through the air with ferocious smiles. The sect leader's white robe fluttered and his spiritual pressure was as strong as Mount Tai's bone-crushing force. His eyes were fixed on Ye Chen and he snorted coldly, "Ye Chen abandoned his son and established a sect to die. 3 families destroyed their families and looted treasures, and the mines and spiritual stones piled up mountains, but the ants shook the trees. This sect ordered 30 sects, nascent soul 372, 1,000 gold elixirs, bloodbath the Yi family, and presented their heads to the immortals. The 4 nascent souls, leaders of the coalition forces beside them, grinned and squeezed the thunder beads. The thunder nets of the spirit boats roared, burning the sky with heat waves and filling the air with the smell of burnt flesh. Hundreds of nascent soul foundations surged down like a tide. The flying swords buzzed and tore into the night wind. The sect's spiritual array clanged and shattered, and light fragments hit the ground like rain. Thousands of casual cultivators ran away holding their heads, corpses spattered with blood mist, and some people's internal organs exploded, sticky and mopping the floor, screaming, "The Yuanying spirit crushes the soul." Ye's ceremony became a slaughterhouse, and the family leader declared death. Han Xiao Yinhong strangled more than 10 golden elixirs, and the brains between his eyebrows exploded with fishy sweetness. He breathed heavily. Coughing up blood, she yelled and retreated, thousands of golden elixirs strangled. Master, the spirit boat's thunder net suppressed the meridians. Lin Yuyen's water dragon devoured by Zhuji's corpse, causing the water and blood to turn turbid. Her pretty face was pale and her legs were weak, and she murmured, "Sir, the coalition's flying sword array has locked the mountain gate, and the water curtain has shattered." Suddenly, Ye Ji appeared in a torn white dress on the side of the mountain gate. The genius cousin of her family, who had long been rumored to have her dantian exploded, was actually resurrected with a spirit bead attached to her soul. She stepped forward with a twisted and vicious smile with her vertical pupils, and pinched the talisman with her jade hand to reveal the weakness of the sect's spiritual formation, the holy power of the sect master. Sword Immortal Ye Chen. I abandoned my son and established a sect in vain. I, Ye Ji, responded internally and secretly communicated with the sect. The north wing of the spiritual array mined a secret passage, and the nascent soul went straight to behead him. Her pretty face was twisted and she giggled wildly, the blood hole in her dantian faintly spurted black blood, and the casual cultivators were wide-eyed. Sweat rolled down his eyes and he swallowed and collapsed. The traitor Ye Ji is resurrected. His weakness is exposed, and the sect is shattered. The head of the family is in despair. Yi Tianxiong's old eyes bulged and he coughed up blood. He pointed at her and trembled and growled, "It's evil, my cousin turned against you." Ye's death. Han Xiaoxin's sword trembled slightly, blood dripping from his nose, and he roared, "Yi Ji bitch, build your foundation and betray your bones, master's sword will kill you." Lin Yuyen slashed at Yi Ji's broken leg with blood spurting, her beautiful eyes were horrified and she whispered, "My cousin is sinister, my son is in danger." The leader of the coalition forces laughed ferociously. The thunder beads exploded. The secret channel of the north wing mine cracked and the spiritual pressure was like a tsunami. Dozens of nascent souls broke in and rushed towards the high platform. Flying swords and lightning arcs roared. The heat wave and ozone burned the bones and stung. The scattered corpses lay all over the field. The internal organs dragged the ground and blood streams merged. Some people's legs were weak and they were urinating and screaming. The nascent soul breaks into the inner world, and the family leader is isolated. Hundreds of people in the Sword Dao realm kneel down to surround and suppress. The leader of the sect in white robe pointed at Ye Chen with a ferocious smile, "Abandoned son, kneel down and offer your sword. Ye family's resources are returned to the sect, and the sect is bloodbathed." The spiritual pressure of the Taishan mountain is overwhelming. Ye Chen stands indifferently on the high platform in black clothes, and is destroyed. The scabbard of the soul's sword whispered like a dragon. His eyes looked down upon the abyss, and he smelled blood with his nose but smiled lightly. The pure sword intent around him quietly converged. The disciple whispered in despair, "The master's sword is weak. The coalition forces are crushing, the end." Han Xiao protects the front with blood, and the new sword Yin Hong cuts off by Fei. The sword jingled, and his meridians surged with blood, roaring, and his legs weakened. "Master, the edge of the golden elixir is shattered, the Yuanying tsunami." Lin Yuyen's water curtain tower exploded and steam hit her face, her jade body was stained with blood and her beautiful eyes were covered with tears and she knelt down, "Master. Yu Yan is powerless, the sect is in ruins." At the peak of despair, Yi Ji laughed wildly and jumped up to use the magic talisman to detonate the secret mine veins. The spiritual energy of the earth veins surged like a volcanic eruption and roared to shake the soul. The gravel rained down and the flesh and blood were blurred. The souls of hundreds of casual cultivators crushed the 7 orifices and the black blood flowed into the stream. Some people stared and died and muttered, "Yi Ji destroyed the foundation. The Yi family will not be buried." The sect master stepped forward with a ferocious smile on his head, "Ye Chen, are you desperate? Kill 3 golden elixir families with 1 sword. Today there are hundreds of nascent souls. Kneel down. The nascent souls of the allied forces roared together and the thunder net covered the sky. The buzzing sound was piercing and the heat wave was burning the souls. Han Xiao and Lin Yuyan held their heads and rolled, and the smell of burnt flesh and black flesh hit their nostrils. They roared and trembled, "Master/Master, help." The whole place was dead silent, and the faces were distorted by fear, and the urine was yellow, the sweat was smelly and the blood was mixed with it. In an instant, Ye Chen sneered and his eyes erupted with golden light. The soul-destroying sword was finally unsheathed. The black light tore through the sky like a black dragon roaring. The way of the sword was perfected, the heart of the sword became clear, and the pure sword intention transformed into the boundless sword domain. The air around the high platform buzzed and torn, and the invisible sword network surged thousands of feet and swept across the entire place. The lightning arc of the spirit boat shattered and jingled. Thousands of broken irons fell like rain, and hundreds of nascent souls raised their pupils and shrank, holding their heads and screaming, "Sword realm transformation. Golden core peak sword intense tsunami, soul strangulation." The sect leader's white robe froze with a sinister smile, blood holes gushing out from his dantian, and his internal organs were sticky and dragging the floor. Black blood gurgled from his throat and his eyes widened as he breathed out, with one sword, the sect leader's soul was destroyed. The four nascent souls of the leaders of the coalition collapsed in the late stage. They collapsed, flying swords danced wildly and exploded, their brains splattered with fishy sweetness, the corpses were filled with blood and fog, and the heat wave mixed with the smell of burnt meat. Before they died, they roared and twisted, "Sword immortal Wushuang," hundreds of nascent infants kneeled down. Ye Chen waved his sword finger lightly, and the soul-destroying sword rainbow danced wildly across the sky. Black light strangled thousands of golden elixirs, bursting into pieces and sizzling, internal organs dragged the ground and rivers of blood flowed together, the spirit boat collapsed, thunder and fragments smashed into the city, the roar was deafening, the remnants of nascent soul escaped but the sword net chased the soul, the eyebrows were pierced and the brain exploded, the rain of corpses filled the whole city with blood. Han Zhao's eyes were distorted with admiration. The new sword buzzed with silver light and opened the golden elixir of the meridians. He stood up with a heavy breath and laughed wildly, "Blood-stained hunting, Master's sword domain. Kill the leader of the sect leader with one sword, and hundreds of souls of Yuanying will be wiped out. Wash. Ye's family is invincible." Lin Yuyan's jade body was bathed in blood, her water spirit surged to perfection, and the water curtain turned into a phoenix soaring to protect the sect. Her pretty face was flushed and her beautiful eyes were filled with mist. She knelt down, kowtowed to her forehead, and whispered, "Young master's swordsmanship." De Shang, the flying sword dance shocked the world of immortals. Yu Yen was intoxicated, and the iron army of the sect will always follow. Thousands of casual cultivators knelt down with weak legs and urinated yellow mixed blood, and the smell of mixed blood filled the air. Some people swallowed their throats, stared and murmured, "The master of the family is against the sky," one sword changed their lives. All the coalition forces were slaughtered, and the resources, minerals, spirit stones, and pills were returned to the Yi family. The casual cultivators kowtowed and pledged their allegiance. Yi Tianxiong's old sword buzzed and he knelt and coughed up blood. The holy power slaughters the immortals, and the Yi family rises to be invincible. Yi Ji's remnant soul stared wide-eyed as the black smoke dissipated, and the internal organs of her broken leg body exploded and covered the ground with sticky contents. Her throat clucked, "Sword domain, cousin immortal lord." The whole place turned into a dead silence and screamed wildly. Sweat rolled down the adoring and twisted face, and nosebleeds dripped. Some people roared and collapsed, "The sword immortal is the only one, and the urban immortal world is shaken." The blood debt of the 30 sects of the supreme sect, Ye's sweep. Ye Chen, dressed in black and dust-free, stood on the high platform, the soul-destroying sword was sheathed and he whispered, his eyes piercing the sky with contempt, his nose could smell the blood but he smiled lightly, "Ye's only sword, all the ants in the world of immortality have been wiped out. The aftermath of the spiritual pressure has dissipated, the lights of the sect's ancient house are bright, the spiritual array has expanded thousands of miles, the resources are piled up, and the aroma of elixirs is fragrant, and the sound of loyalty from the cultivators is loud. But black clouds exploded in the outskirts, and the spirit boat pressed down on the city like a mountain. The 5 nascent souls were grinning ferociously with thunder arcs and roaring. Ye Chen establishes a clan. The coalition forces are massive, bloodbath tonight. Murderous intent surged into the sky, tsunami spiritual pressure poured out, and the disciples raised their pupils and screamed in fear. The decisive battle is imminent. Can the Sword Emperor stop it? Ye Chen's eyes were scornful, and the soul-destroying sword hummed loudly with a sneer. The golden light from high in the sky pours down like molten gold, the fairy world passage buzzes and tears the night sky, the ancient fairy bells pierce the soul and tremble, the spiritual energy pours out like the roar of the river, mixed with cool ozone and hits the nostrils, the city lights sway and twist, in front of the mountain gate of the ancient house of the Ye family. The fragrance of the spiritual stone elixir is filled with the bloody aftertaste. The crane-haired immortal shadow slowly descended, and the windless white-robed automatic spiritual pressure was like a boundless sea of stars, crushing the entire audience. Tens of thousands of new loyal cultivators hit their knees on the ground, gravel splashed, nosebleeds spurted out, mixed with sweat and smelly yellow. Some people's throats gurgled and screamed, "Hua! Immortal Lord! The immortal realm is coming in person, and the soul is crushed and the meridians are locked. Ye Chen just slaughtered the coalition forces, and the resources are full, but he is still kneeling to the immortal power." Han Zhao's new sword Yinhong Hunter trembled slightly, his eyes shot up, his legs softened and his breath was rough, and he roared, "Master!" Xianying Hafa eyes locked, the spirit turned into a tsunami, and the golden elixir sealed the edge. Lin Yuyen's water phoenix soared to protect the sect. The water mist was cool and the steam was hot. Her beautiful eyes were scorched by the water mist, and her jade legs were trembling, and she pressed against Ye Chen's arm and whispered, "Sir, the passage to the fairy world is open, invitation. Ascension. The information is concealed, the spirit of the crane-haired immortal is pressing down on Mount Tai, and the sect's spiritual array is clanging and shattering." Yi Tianxiong's old sword hummed and coughed up blood as he knelt down, the sound of cracking bones was harsh. In the fairy world, Ye's iron plate is shattered, the end is coming again. The fairy figure with crane hair looked down at Ye Chen indifferently, the dust-free black clothes stood on the high platform and the soul-destroying sword returned to its sheath and whispered in a low voice. His eyes looked down upon the abyss and his nose smelled the fragrance of blood, but he smiled lightly and said nothing. The pure sword energy around him quietly converged, and the disciple muttered in despair, "The sword sound of the master is weak." The immortal lord crushed him, and he flew up into a trap. The immortal shadow crane's ferocious laughter roared with thunder, the white robe sleeves waved, and the spiritual pressure surged like the overturning of the galaxy. The mountain gate spiritual formation expanded thousands of miles and shattered in an instant. The spirit stone elixir burst into dust and filled the nose with the stench of ashes. Ye Chen, the golden pill sword immortal. The swordsmanship is clear and he slaughters hundreds of Yuanyings. The ants shake the sky. The immortal world commands the order to unify the continent and practice in seclusion. Ignorance. I gave the immortal decree and invited him to ascend, but he tried the sword method. He transformed into a god and his soul was destroyed with one thought. Kneel down and offer the soul-destroying sword. Ye's resources will return to the immortal world, otherwise blood washes the continent. The golden light in the passage behind him cracked open, and the faint auras of dozens of gods surged like a tsunami in the mountains. Thousands of casual cultivators covered their heads and scuttled into corpses. Blood mist splashed everywhere, and some people's internal organs exploded and screamed, "Allied forces from the fairy world. 10 gods, Ye family's catastrophe, the family leader is dead." Han Xiao Yinhong, the jingle in the sky broke, and his meridians were filled with bloodshot blood and he yelled back, "Master, the immortal shadow is trying the sword, the golden elixir is shattered." Lin Yuyen's water phoenix swallowed up the shards of light, the water and blood were turbid, her pretty face was pale and her legs were weak, and she murmured, "Sir, there is a murderous intention hidden in the passage, the immortal is secretly preparing to transform into a god to encircle and suppress you." Suddenly, the remnant enemies on the flanks of the mountain gate reappeared, and the remnants of the Shang sect's coalition forces secretly sent out the fragments of the soul-carrying boat of Yuan Ying's peak to resurrect. He jumped out with twisted hair and a sinister smile to expose the weakness of the sect's new spiritual formation, the holy power of the immortal. Ye Chen sword immortal. Abandoned Sun wants to take over the mainland, my superior sect's remnant party has already secretly passed through the fairy world. The black market mine's secret passage in the east wing of the spiritual formation, transformed into a god and went straight to the beheading. His blood hole Dantian faintly spurted black blood, and the casual cultivator's eyes widened and sweat rolled down his throat. Swallowing and collapsing, the remnant soul of the sect is resurrected. The weakness of the sect is exposed, the sect is shattered, the head of the family is in despair. Yi Tianxiong's old eyes bulged and he coughed up blood, pointed at him and trembled and shouted, "The evil obstacle, the remaining party defected, the Yi family is dead." Han Zhao's new sword trembled slightly, blood dripping from his nose, and he roared, "The despicable soul of the sect, the nascent soul betrayed the bones, the master's sword slashed." Lin Yuyen's water blade slashed at the broken leg, spurting blood, her beautiful eyes were horrified and she whispered, "The enemy is sinister, the young master is in danger." Immortal shadows and cranes waved their sleeves with a ferocious smile, the black market mineral veins in the east wing collapsed and the spiritual pressure was like a tsunami, several transformed gods secretly prepared to break in and rush towards the high platform, the flying swords and immortal light roared, the heat wave and the immortal incense burned the bones and pungent, scattered corpses littered the fields and internal organs. The bloody rivers on the floor were flowing together, and someone's legs were weak and he was urinating and screaming, the transformed god broke in, and the family leader was isolated. The sword realm transformation realm also knelt down for dozens of times to suppress. The crane-haired fairy figure in white robe smiled ferociously and pointed at Ye Chen with his sword, "Abandoned son, kneel down and offer your sword." Great! Lu Inxiu returns to the immortal world, and the sect is bloodbathed. The spiritual pressure of the sea of stars overwhelmed him. Ye Chen stood motionless, whispering like a dragon in the soul-destroying sword scabbard, his eyes pierced the passage with contempt, his nose smelled the scent of immortality, but he sneered, "Immortal, are you worthy of being an ant in the world?" The whole place was dead silent, and the face was twisted with fear, with yellow urine, sweat, stinky blood, and blood. Han Xiaolin Yuyan held her head and rolled, her meridians were scorched and the stench hit her nostrils, and she roared tremblingly, Master, help." At the peak of despair, the remnant soul of the Shangzong laughed wildly and jumped up to use the magic talisman to detonate the secret passage of the mineral veins. The earth vein immortal spiritual energy surged like a volcanic eruption and shook the soul. The gravel rained down like a rain and smashed down the bloody flesh. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators crushed the souls of the 7 orifices and the black blood flowed into the stream. Some people stared and breathed away and murmured, "The remnant soul destroys the foundation. The Yi family will die without a burial." Immortal Shadow stepped forward with a ferocious smile and said, "Ye Chen, are you desperate? The sword slaughtered hundreds of Yuanyings, and today dozens of gods have transformed, kneel down." The golden light of the passage surged and covered the sky with a buzzing sound, a piercing heat wave burning the soul, and the disciple collapsed with a low roar, "The immortal world is crushed, the end." In an instant, Ye Chen sneered and his eyes exploded with a golden rainbow of fairy light. The soul-destroying sword was finally unsheathed. The black light transformed into the immortal sword realm and tore the sky apart like the roar of the Black Dragon Emperor. His swordsmanship broke through, transforming into the divine sword heart, and pure sword intention transformed into the supreme immortal realm. The void around the high platform buzzed and shattered, and the invisible fairy sword network surged thousands of meters across the continent. The golden light of the passage shattered and jingled. Thousands of fairy irons fell like rain and clattered. Several gods turned and had their pupils shrunk, holding their heads and screaming, "Immortal Sword Realm. Golden Core Peak Evolution Divine Sword Intent Emperor see, the soul is strangled." Immortal Inghafa froze with a ferocious smile. Immortal blood from his internal organs gushed out from his Dantian immortal cave and was sticky to the floor. Black blood gurgled from his throat and his eyes widened as he breathed out, "With one sword, the immortal envoy's soul is extinguished." The immortal realm. Regret. The allied god Anbei's spiritual pressure collapsed. The fairy sword danced wildly and exploded, and the brains were splashed with fairy sweetness. The blood mist of corpses rose to the sky, and the heat wave mixed with the smell of scorched fairy meat. Before they died, they roared and twisted, Sword Emperor Wushuang transformed into a god and knelt down to wash in blood. The Mang strangled the remnants of the continent's golden elixir and Yuanying, all the Dantian exploded and sizzled, the internal organs dragged the ground and the immortal blood river merged, the black market mineral veins and the spiritual cave cottage collapsed, the immortal thunder fragments smashed into the city, the remnants turned into gods and escaped, but the immortal sword network chased the soul, pierced the forehead, and pierced the brain, exploding the immortal blood rain. Han Zhao's vertical eyes were worshipped and distorted, and the new sword's silver rainbow celestial light was so powerful that his meridians transformed into gods and opened. He laughed wildly and stood up with blood-stained hunting. He knelt down and touched his forehead to the ground. The Emperor's sect is invincible, and his disciple, Han Shaojian's sect's deputy sect, vows to sweep away the immortal world. Lin Yuyan's jade body bathed in the immortal blood, and the water spirit surged and transformed into a god. The water curtain turned into an immortal phoenix and soared to protect the sect. Her pretty face was flushed and her eyes were misty, and she knelt down and moaned softly. Her jade hands caressed her lower abdomen and gave birth to spiritual light. Young master swordsmanship transformed into a god, the flying sword immortal level shocked the fairy world. Yu Yan's pregnant son passed on, the intelligence network unified the continent's hermit cultivators, and they will ascend forever. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators knelt down with weak legs and urinated, and the smell of the blood of the mixed immortals filled the air. Some people swallowed their throats, stared, and murmured wildly, "Sword the Emperor rebelled against the sky and conquered the continent with one sword." The allied armies of the immortal world were slaughtered, and the resources, minerals, spiritual stones, elixirs, and immortal treasures piled up in the mountains. The scattered cultivators kowtowed and pledged their allegiance to the Yi clan's imperial sect. Ye Chen, the old swordsman, kowtowed and coughed up blood in excitement, "The holy power of the immortal slaughter, the Yi clan rules the continent and rises to the throne." Shangzong's remnant soul stared wide-eyed as the black smoke dissipated from the soul, and the internal organs of his severed leg corpse exploded and covered the ground with sticky substances. His throat clucked, "Immortal Sword Realm." The master of the family, Emperor Zun, regrets that he should have acted in this way. The whole audience turned into a dead silence and screamed wildly, with twisted worship. Sweat rolled down his face, blood dripped from his nose, and someone roared and collapsed, "The Sword Emperor is supreme, the urban immortal world is shaking the immortal world. The enemies are bloodied, and the Yi family's imperial army is sweeping them away." Ye Chen, dressed in black and dust-free, stood on the high platform, the soul-destroying sword immortal returned to his sheath and whispered the Emperor's voice, his eyes pierced the broken passage with contempt, his nose smelled the blood of Xingxian, but he smiled lightly, "Ye's sword is the only sword, the continent is unified, and the ants in the immortal world need to be swept away. The aftermath of the spiritual pressure has dissipated, the lights of the sect's ancient house are shining brightly, the immortal array has expanded thousands of miles, and resources have piled up. The elixir smells fragrant, the black market Lingku mountain village mineral veins and spiritual stones are all plundered and piled up like mountains, the casual cultivators kowtow and pledge their allegiance to the sky. Han Shao Yinhong is the deputy master of the sword sect of the Immortal Sword Order, Lin Yuyan, Shuifeng's Pregnancy Information Network, and the mainland Hermit Cultivator Network are all accepted by the Yi family. Ye Chen was in seclusion at the peak of becoming a god. The spiritual energy of the sword cave deep in the ancient house surged like a tornado. The soul-destroying sword buzzed and evolved into an immortal-level sword. The soul of the emperor flashed. He sat cross-legged and the sword heart was bright. His pure sword intention broke through the bottleneck of becoming a god. The void around him tore apart the immortal realm and expanded. The remnant enemies from the outside world reappeared, and the remnant soul of the Qian Sun Zhao family and the leader of the Sun family mine village was resurrected. The foundation building pill sneaked into the east wing and secretly smiled. Sword Emperor retreats. After the death of the immortal envoy, we will take revenge, and the spirit cave mineral vein will be beheaded secretly. They squeezed the immortal talisman with their jade hands to expose their weaknesses, and the spiritual pressure tsunami foreshadowed a raging wave. The casual cultivator's legs went weak and screamed, "The remnant party is resurrected? The master is in seclusion, the iron plate of the emperor's sect is shattered." Han Xiao Yinhong hunted and intercepted the fire thorns in the meridians and roared, "The deputy sect master protects the law, the master is in seclusion, don't disturb." Lin Yuyen's water phoenix swept through the water mist and whispered hotly, "Pregnant child protects the sect, the intelligence locks the remnant enemy." In the sword cave, Ye Chen sneered and his eyes flashed. He unsheathed the immortal sword and swung it. The boundless immortal sword territory expanded thousands of miles and swept across the continent. Qian Sun Zhao Yudong raised his pupils and shrank his needles, holding his head and collapsed. The immortal sword territory is closed and released. The golden elixir shatters the soul. The village leader's remnant soul Dantian immortal exploded and his internal organs were sticky and covered the floor. Hundreds of golden elixirs pierced the brains of immortals and exploded corpses. The blood mist rose into the sky. Mine veins and spiritual caves collapsed. The immortals burst into pieces. Han Xianhong laughed loudly, "Master protects the sect in the immortal domain and washes the remaining enemies with blood." Lin Yuyen's beautiful eyes flushed as the water blade devoured the corpses. The prince's imperial power, Yuyan's descendants bathed in the sword's light, and the inheritance is immortal. The rogue cultivator kowtowed wildly, the sword emperor retreats to slaughter the remnants, and the Yi family rules the continent without leakage. The residual light of the passage reappeared, and the new immortal shadow came even more fiercely. The spiritual pressure of the peak of the god transformed into a god, and he smiled ferociously. Ye Chen swordsman transformed into a god. A powerful enemy from the immortal world is coming in person, and the immortals are blocking the way. Unify the resources of the mainland and offer the immortal world, kneel down. He waved his sleeves. The immortal light of the 10 transformed gods' allied forces roared, the heat wave burned the sky, and the stench of the immortals hit your nostrils. The casual cultivator collapsed and screamed, "A powerful enemy in the immortal world. The master of the house is in retreat, the end." Han Xiaolin Yuyan covered the cave with blood and screamed and trembled, "Master, the powerful enemy is here in person." The sword cave exploded, Emperor Ye Chen stepped out in black to hunt, and with a wave of the soul-destroying immortal sword emperor, the immortal realm surged and swallowed the sky. The powerful enemy with white hair and eyes froze in despair. Immortal blood spurted out from the Dantian Emperor cave and his internal organs dragged the floor. His throat gurgled and he yelled, "Sword Emperor! Regret from the immortal realm. Kill the Lord with one sword." The brains of the 10 gods exploded and corpses rained down from the immortal mist. The passage was shattered and the golden light dissipated. Han Xiao raised his eyes and turned into a god and roared, "Master's imperial sword, one sword blocks the path to immortality and opens the way to the emperor." Lin Yuyan knelt down and kowtowed, her pregnancy light flashed, "The sun is unparalleled, heir to the sword." The sound of worship from the casual cultivators shook the sky, the sword emperor rules the continent, and the immortal world kneels down to pay off the blood debt. Ye Chen's eyes pierced the sky and sneered, "In the immortal world, it's my turn." As night falls, the lights of the ancient Yi clan's house in the city pour down like a starry river. The spiritual array outside the sword cave pulses with thousands of golden lights. The rivers of immortal blood merge into a slimy and dragging stream. After the corpses and the immortal fog dissipate, the smell of burnt immortal meat mixed with spiritual stones is refreshing and hits the nostrils. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators are smashing their knees and smashing stones, and their foreheads are pounding. Blood stains mixed with beads of sweat rolled down, and some people swallowed and trembled in their throats. The Sword Emperor slaughtered the peak of the gods with one sword. The passage to the immortal world was forever shattered, the rain of gold and iron hit the ground, the Emperor's power shook the 9 days, and all the hidden cultivators in the mainland worshipped the Ye family. Han Shao Inhong's fairy sword hunted and circled, his pupils were twisted in worship breathing heavily, the blood-stained immortal blood-stained hunter stood up and laughed wildly and kowtowed. His forehead hit the ground with gravel splashing. Master Emperor Jian Wushuang, disciple Han Shaojian Sect's deputy master, unified mainland sword cultivator to wipe out the remnants of the immortal world. Lin Yuyan's jade body was shimmering with water, and her white clothes were dyed with immortal blood and the mist was cool and steaming. The steam was scorching hot, her beautiful eyes were watery and her red jade hands were caressing her belly to give birth to a sword fetus. She knelt down and knelt on her forehead to tremble softly. Young master transformed into the divine sword emperor, Yuyan's intelligence network was woven and she went to live in seclusion on the mainland, and the pregnant sword fetus Mu Emperor's light ascended forever. The resources of the emperor's sect are piled up, and the Ye family is the only one. Ye Chen, dressed in black and dust-free, stood on the high platform of the sword cave. The soul-destroying immortal sword returned to its sheath and the emperor roared like a dragon. His eyes pierced the night sky and looked down upon the remaining light of the fairy world. His nose smelled the scent of Xingxian's bloody mixed spirit stone elixir, but he smiled lightly. The imperial sea of pure sword intent around the body quietly converged. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators raised their heads and stared wide-eyed amidst the stench of the blood of the yellow hybrid immortal. Sweat rolled down their Adam's apple. Some people roared and collapsed and worshipped. The Sword Emperor is the only one. One sword blocks the immortal path and opens the Emperor's path. The allied army of transformed gods is reigning with corpses. Dirty mopping the floor. The Ye family's imperial sect dominates the mainland, and all the resources and mineral caves have been looted and piled up like mountains. Ye Tianxiong's old sword buzzed with the fairy light. He coughed up blood and knelt down with his joints snapping and roared excitedly, "Holy mighty immortal Lord too, the former family leader has proclaimed his death and now kowtows his allegiance, the suppressing emperor sect rises to be invincible." Under the high platform, mountains of resources piled up, spiritual stones, elixirs, immortal treasures flickered, a crane-haired corpse in the immortal world spewed sticky immortal blood from its dantian, dozens of transformed gods' brain exploded the immortal mist. Corpses scattered and jingled, and Han Shao Inhong twisted up the fragments of the immortal sword with a wave of his hand. The sound of gold and iron shattered, and his pupils shrank in ecstasy. "Master, the magic weapon of the immortal envoy." The fragments of the immortal sword of immortal transformation flash with imperial light, and are refined into the sword sect's treasure house, and the disciples' swordsmanship will rise again. Lin Yu Yenshui's phoenix soared in the water curtain and swept across the corpse river. The cold water and blood were turbid, and her beautiful eyes were anxious and whispered, "Sir, the fragments of the passage hide the secret map of the immortal world, and the analysis of the intelligence network. The weakness of the immortal has been revealed, and the ascension passage can be re-drilled." The casual cultivators rushed forward to pick up the spiritual stones and elixirs with bleeding noses and trembling hands. Suddenly, there was a resounding buzz in the secret passage of the mine in the east wing of the ancient house, and a wisp of black smoke curled up from the remnant soul. Cousin Yiji's spirit bead was shattered and resurrected. Her hair was messy, her pretty face was pale, and the blood hole was faintly visible in her dantian. The corpse with a broken leg was sticky on the ground, but its soul crawled out with a trembling voice. Her head clucked in regret and her beautiful eyes widened with tears streaming down her face. "Housemaster Emperor." Jia betrayed and exposed her weakness, the magic talisman destroyed the mineral vein, I regret that I should not be jealous of ambition. The remnants of the Shangzong promised resources in the fairy world, but it was actually a trap, information to atone for their sins. She squeezed out the remaining spirit with her jade hands. The black light of the talisman flashed, and the casual cultivator shrank his pupils and backed away with his head in his arms, breathing heavily and roaring, Yi Ji's remnant soul is resurrected? My cousin is a genius traitor. She has a broken leg and internal organs and she dares to show up. The Emperor's iron plate, the family leader said to kill. Han Xiao Yinhong pointed directly at her meridians. The fire thorn roared, traitor cousin, the soul of nascent soul peak is black smoke, the master smashed the internal organs with a sword, atonement. Illusion. Lin Yuyan's water blade swirled with scorching water mist, the water mist in her beautiful eyes murmured coldly, Yi Ji, the pregnant son protects the sect, we will discuss the information after verification. Ye Chen glanced at it lightly, and the pure sword intention of the imperial sea swiped. Yi Ji's remnant soul was frozen in the black smoke. Her beautiful legs trembled and she knelt down and hit her forehead. A pool of blood splashed, and she swallowed in her throat and murmured, information from the fairy world. Far behind the powerful enemy, the three immortal masters from the nine heavens immortal palace joined forces to intercept Fei Sheng. The weak point is the gap in the sword's core hidden in the dantian. The young master's sword is clear and can be broken. The casual cultivator stared with sweat rolling down his throat. Collapse turned to ecstasy, cousin made atonement and made meritorious service. Immortal Lord's information, the Sword Emperor went straight to the immortal world. The road to the Yi family is open. Yi Tianxiong's old eyes bulged and he coughed up blood and excitedly, Jia repented, the Emperor's sect has done meritorious service by not killing, suppressed the Master Lin of the Show Information Hall. Ye Chen nodded with a sneer, and with the sound of the soul-destroying sword, the aura of Yi Ji's remnant soul healed in her dantian. Her pretty face flushed, and she kowtowed and roared, Emperor's favor. Jia will always follow you to sweep the immortal world. In the calm aftermath, fame surged like a tide. The lights of high-rise buildings in the city flickered and the hermit cultivators hummed with messages. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators kowtowed and their voices of allegiance were loud. Some people had nosebleeds gushing from their noses mixed with the smell of sweat and roared, the Sword Emperor rules the continent. Black Market Spirit Cave Qian Sun Zhao's son all the mines and villages were destroyed, and the resources were piled up in the mountains. Hundreds of millions of elixirs and elixirs were collected. The Yi clan's imperial sect was at its peak, and the worldly dignitaries were kneeling down to lick it. Yinhong Xianguang, the deputy leader of the Han Xiaotong sword sect, distributed the treasures. He raised his pupils and laughed in a deified manner, a gift from the master, the sword. The disciples of the sect obtained the fragments of the immortal sword to refine their bodies, and the meridians turned into divine locks. Lin Yuyan weaved a net with the water phoenix, her beautiful eyes filled with mist, and whispered, Young master, the hidden cultivation continent is fully accepted, and Yi Ji assists in analyzing the immortal map. The ascension passage is recut. The weaknesses of the immortal world are all locked up. Ye Chen stood on the high platform indifferently, sniffing the cool and refreshing immortal blood with his nose, and harvested the fruits with a smile. The spiritual stones were piled up in the sword cave to refine the emperor's weapons, the elixir was divided into disciples to attack the gods, and the fragments of the immortal treasure melted and the soul-destroying sword became more powerful. After the trivial matters were dealt with, a sudden change occurred in the night sky, the golden light of the broken passage reunited and buzzed and torn apart, the new shadow of the immortal world came more fiercely, the immortal spiritual pressure was like a boundless sea of stars, overturning the heat wave and the scent of immortal incense burning souls. The three immortals joined forces in white robes, the ferocious sleeves waved the immortal light and roared, Sword Emperor Ye Chen. At the peak of transformation, you slaughtered the immortal envoys in vain, and the three immortals blocked the way to ascend. The resources of the mainland are dedicated to the immortal world, and the soul of the kneeling head is destroyed. Behind the passage, the aura of the immortal emperor is faintly looming, and the mountain tsunami is surging, and thousands of casual cultivators or humans hugged their heads, rats scurried away, corpses splattered with blood mist, and someone's internal organs exploded, sticky and mopping the floor, screaming, "3 immortal lords." The passage was reopened to intercept, and the iron plate of the emperor's sect was shattered. The family leader's reputation is booming, and the disaster is coming again. Han Xianhong trembled slightly, and the meridians were stung by fire. With blood overflowing from the corners of her mouth, she growled, "Master, the immortal master is sending a tsunami of spiritual pressure, and the disciple is protecting the law." Lin Yuyen's water phoenix swallowed up the shards of light, her water and blood became turbid, her pretty face was pale and her legs were weak, and she moaned, "Sir, the 3 immortal masters are secretly preparing for the immortal emperor, the pregnancy is in danger." Yi Ji's remnant soul smiled ferociously and jumped out of the magic talisman to expose her weakness. There is a crack in the heart of the sword of the immortal core in the immortal Dantian, and the young master's swordsmanship breaks it. Black blood spurted out from her Dantian. The casual cultivator's eyes widened, sweat rolled down his throat, he swallowed and collapsed. "My cousin has made meritorious deeds again. Information to save the Emperor sect. Immortal Lord is crushing him, despair." Han Xiao Yinhong hunting intercepted the fairy light and broke it. He roared and retreated in blood, the deputy sect leader assisted in the battle, and the 3 immortals' sword strangled the edge. Lin Yuyen's water blade slashed at the Hafa immortal, spurting blood, and the water phoenix surged and transformed into a god. She murmured with horror in her beautiful eyes, "Information verification, the young master's sword intent is soaring to the sky." The immortal lord crane-haired with a ferocious smile and waving his sleeves, the East Wing spiritual array expanded thousands of miles and shattered in an instant. Thousands of light fragments clattered to the ground like rain. The mountains of resources, spiritual stones and elixirs collapsed, dust filled the nostrils, and the smell of ashes was scorched. Sword Emperor Ant. Immortal world orders, bloodbath the continent. The golden light of the passage behind him cracked, the shadow of the immortal emperor surged, and the loose cultivator's legs went weak and he cried, "A sign of the immortal emperor?" The family leader is isolated, and the 3 immortals are encircling and suppressing. The whole place was dead silent and twisted with fear. Han Xiaolin Yuyen held her head and rolled over. Her meridians were burnt and the smell of blackened stench hit her nostrils. She growled and trembled, Master, help." At the peak of despair, Ye Chen sneered and his eyes exploded with a golden rainbow of imperial light. The soul-destroying immortal sword was finally unsheathed, and the black light evolved into the supreme immortal realm Imperial Sea and tore the sky apart. The sword intent soars to the sky and the pure sword heart locks on the crack of the immortal core. The void on the high platform buzzes and shatters. The invisible Emperor sword network surges thousands of feet and sweeps across the passage of the immortal world. The 3 immortals have vertical pupils and shrink needles. They hold their heads and scream, "Sword Emperor Immortal Realm." The heart of the sword transforming into a god breaks the immortal core, soul annihilation. The crane-haired immortal froze with a sinister smile, and the immortal core in his Dantian was shattered. Immortal blood gushed out from his internal organs and covered the floor. His throat gurgled and black blood spurted wildly. His eyes widened and he breathed out, "One sword, immortal lord regrets. Immortal emperor, stop." The 3 immortals' brains exploded into pieces of corpses. Blood mist rose to the sky, heat wave mixed with the stench of burnt immortal flesh, the channel tore apart and golden light surged. Ye Chen's sword rainbow rushed straight into the immortal world. Han Xiao worshipped deity with his eyes straight up, and the new sword Yinhong Emperor's light was so powerful that he opened the Meridian Emperor lock. He stood up with a heavy breath and laughed wildly, blood-stained hunting. He knelt down and kowtowed his forehead to the ground with a snap, "Master's sword intent reaches the sky, kill 3 immortals with 1 sword. Emperor. The sect is invincible, and my disciples swear to follow the immortal emperor." Lin Yuyen's jade body was bathed in the immortal blood, and the emperor's water spirit surged, and the water curtain transformed into the emperor's phoenix soaring. Her pretty face was flushed and her beautiful eyes were misty, and she knelt down and whispered, her jade hand caressing her lower abdomen, and the sword-carrying emperor's light shone, young master swordsman immortal, Ye Chen is the heir to the emperor. The intelligence network locks the immortal emperor, and he will always follow him to the sky. Ye Zhi's remnant soul's aura surged, she kowtowed and roared, family master, Zhi's intelligence has made a meritorious service, and the immortal emperor's weaknesses have been exposed. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators knelt down with weak legs and urinated under the stench of Huanshan's blood. Some people swallowed their throats, stared, and murmured wildly. The sword emperor tore up the passage and rushed straight into the immortal world. The corpses of the three immortals rained down on the ground with their entrails, and the Yi family's imperial army followed the emperor's path. Suddenly, high-altitude black clouds cracked and golden light spread, thunder and roar loomed in the fairyland passage, ancient fairy sounds were like bells piercing the soul, spiritual energy surged like rivers, pouring ozone and coolness on the face, a fairy shadow looked down indifferently, Ye Chen, a path to immortality. The road to ascension is open. Ye Chen's eyes flashed with lightning, and he sneered and pointed his sword at the golden gate, immortal world. I am the only one. The disciples in the audience raised their eyes and shrank in admiration, shouting, the master of the family is about to ascend, Ye's emperor sect. The golden light of the immortal passage is twisted like 10,000 pythons strangling, the heat wave is mixed with the immortal incense and the burning soul is pungent. Ye Chen, dressed in black, steps into the void. The soul-destroying immortal sword roars like thousands of dragons chanting in unison. The sword body melts into fragments of immortal treasures and the imperial light flashes violently, tearing apart the phantoms of the sea of stars around him. At the end of the passage, the golden roof of the nine heavens immortal palace is suspended in the sea of clouds, with countless crane-haired immortal shadows, surrounded by menacing smiles in white robes. The shadow of the immortal emperor is like a mountain tsunami pressing on the top, the spiritual pressure crushes the void and buzzes into pieces, the heat wave of the immortal mist hits the face, and the odor of burnt immortal bone mixed with the elixir is refreshing and penetrates the nose. In the field of vision of the Sanshio protector, Han Zhao's vertical pupils at the entrance of the passage shrank and he held his head and backed away. The new Yinhong sword emperor's light trembled slightly, and his meridians were pierced by fire. His nosebleed overflowed from the corner of his mouth and his throat gurgled and growled, Master rushes to the immortal palace. The immortal emperor's spiritual pressure is tsunami, the disciples are powerless to protect the law, the passage is shattered and the iron plate of the emperor's sect is shaken. Lin Yuyan's jade body is shimmering with water, and the emperor phoenix is soaring uncertainly, her beautiful eyes are misty and pale, her jade hands are touching her lower abdomen, the sword body is dim, and she is trembling in low voice. Young master is alone. The intelligence network has locked the weakness of the immortal emperor. The immortal core is hidden deep in the crack in the heart of the sword. The pulse of the pregnant emperor's fetus is weak. The immortal palace is full of cranes. It's despair. Ye Zhi's remnant soul, crane hair, pretty face, twisted blood hole, and dull pain in her dantian. The black light of the spiritual talisman flashed as he knelt down and hit the ground with his forehead, a pool of blood splattered, and he swallowed in his throat and shouted regretfully, the family leader entered the immortal palace, Zhi's information was wrong. The immortal emperor is not comparable to the three deities, the nine heavens defenders turned into billions of gods, and the emperor's path is cut off. Outside the sword cave of the Yi family's ancient house in the city, tens of thousands of casual cultivators had weak legs and the stench of the blood of the yellow hybrid immortal filled the air. Some people had twitching internal organs and clutched their heads, screaming, the sword emperor enters the immortal world alone. The golden light of the passage engulfs the black shadow, and the shadow of the immortal emperor surges. The resources of the emperor's sect are piled up in vain, the family leader's reputation is defeated, and the hidden continent of cultivation collapsed. Ye Tianxiong's old sword buzzed and broke. He coughed up blood and knelt down, his joints snapping, and his excitement turned to fear. His old eyes bulged and he roared, the holy power slaughters the three immortals, and Fang Sheng's reputation is about to fall. The former family leader is spreading rumors again, and the Zongzong has no face. Han Shao Yinhong circled to protect the entrance, with vertical pupils. The deified person roared with a twisted and rough breath, Master Emperor Jian Wushuang, disciple Jian Zongtan Wangxiu Dharma Protector, the immortal world is bloodbathed and waiting to return. The whole place was in deathly silence and twisted with fear. Mountains of resources, spiritual stones and elixirs were piled up with scorched ashes and the stench filled the nostrils. The changes in the immortal palace reflected the night sky, the golden dome thunder catastrophe roared for thousands of miles, and the crane-haired immortal shadow's ferocious voice transmission was buzzing and piercing. Ye Chen, you ant. The immortal emperor descends in person, destroying the continent with one finger and devoting all its resources. The casual cultivator's eyes widened with sweat rolling down his Adam's apple, and some people yelled in despair, the immortal emperor is invincible. The sword emperor's vain attempt to become a god, the rain of corpses will come to crush the emperor's sect again. Deep in the immortal palace, the sea of stars in the void was overturned. Ye Chen stood indifferently under the golden roof. The soul-destroying sword emperor sea quietly converged, and his eyes pierced through the scornful sneer of the crane-haired army. The immortal emperor sits high on the throne of the 9 heavens with crane hair, his white robes with ferocious smiling sleeves waving tsunamis in the immortal realm, billions of transformed gods with crane hair surrounded by immortal swords ringing in unison, gold and iron rain slamming into the void. The spiritual pressure is like the crushing of boundless galaxies, the heat wave burns the soul, the immortal incense mixes with the scorched bones, and the stench rushes straight to the brain. The crane-haired immortal shadows roared with a ferocious smile, mortal sword cultivator, 3 immortal envoys. The immortal emperor turned into ashes at a thought, and the mainland hermit cultivator knelt down to offer the mineral cave. A peaked crane-haired immortal took the lead in strangulating with the ferocious smile of the immortal sword. The sword light tore through the void with a clanging sound, locking on the center of Ye Chen's Dantian eyebrows. Ye Chen's black clothes were windless, and the pure sword intent of the emperor swiped, and the fairy sword broke and the gold and iron shattered. The beads rolled down his throat and he swallowed and collapsed. One sword kills the gods instantly. The iron plate of the immortal army. Immortal emperor saves. The immortal emperor froze with a ferocious smile, and the white-robed hunter stood up. The throne hummed and shattered, and the immortal realm skyrocketed for billions of miles and swept across the sea of stars. Junior, the heart of the sword is clear. The emperor's immortal core is hidden deep, the 9 heavens' immortal palace has suppressed for eternity, and the soul of the kneeling head flies away. At the peak of despair, billions of cranes exploded into a tsunami of celestial light. The void collapsed and light flakes pattered on the ground like rain. Immortal incense burned the soul and pungently mixed with the smell of burnt meat. Ye Chen's pale eyes erupted with a golden rainbow of imperial light. The soul-destroying fairy sword was finally unsheathed. The black light evolved into the supreme celestial realm and the imperial sea tore apart the 9 heavens. The sword intent soared to the sky and the pure sword heart locked onto the rift in the immortal core. The invisible emperor sword net surged hundreds of millions of feet and swept across the immortal palace. The golden dome was instantly shattered by thunder and tribulation. Thousands of crane-haired corpses with head-holding heads scurrying about and their internal organs burst out sticky and covered the floor. Some people exploded with corpses of immortal mist and rivers of blood rose to the sky. The fog and heat wave, the immortal emperor's grin turned to fear, the deep cracks in the immortal core of his dantian were exposed, his throat gurgled and black blood spurted wildly, his eyes widened and he held his head and rolled, the sword is bright and the immortal emperor, regrets. The 9 days, are broken. The golden roof of the immortal emperor's brains collapsed, the immortal blood river merged into a sea, sticky and tangy, the 9 heavens' immortal palace was turned into ashes, and the sea of stars collapsed and hummed endlessly. At the entrance of the passage, Han Shao worshipped the deity with his eyes straight up. His new sword, the silver rainbow emperor's light, surged and his meridians and imperial locks were fully opened. He laughed wildly and stood up to bathe in the immortal blood. He knelt down, knelt and kowtowed to the ground, hitting the ground with gravel splashing. Master slaughtered the immortal emperor with one sword. Billions of crane-haired corpses rained down on the ground with their entrails. The emperor's sect was invincible. In the immortal realm, the disciple of the sword sect, the deputy sect master, swears to follow him for 9 days. Lin Yuyen, the water curtain emperor phoenix sword, and the turbid water and blood swept across the corpse river. Her beautiful eyes were filled with water and mist, and her red jade hand touched her lower abdomen. The aura of the sword embryo emperor glowed brightly. She knelt down and her forehead touched the ground and trembled softly. Young master, immortal emperor sword master, Ye Chen. The newspaper network weaves the secret map of the immortal realm, and the Emperor Mu's majesty ascends forever. The emperor's resources are plundered from the immortal palace and piled up like a mountain. The spiritual light of Yi Ji's remnant soul surged in her dantian and healed the blood hole. She kowtowed and roared, the master of the family slaughtered the immortal emperor, and Jier's intelligence contributed to the immortal core. Yongsui Town Jiutian Information Hall. Tens of thousands of casual cultivators knelt down with weak legs and urinated yellow mixed with the stench of immortal blood. Some people swallowed their throats, stared and murmured wildly, the sword emperor is the only one. The immortal palace is filled with broken corpses and the internal organs are sticky. The Emperor Yi clan dominates the mainland of the immortal world, and there are billions of spiritual stones, pills, and immortal treasures piled up in the mountains. Ye Chen's sword rainbow rushed out of the passage with golden light. He was dressed in black and dustless and stood on the high platform. The soul-destroying immortal sword returned to its sheath and the emperor's roar shook the 9 heavens like a dragon's roar. His eyes pierced through the stars and despised the shadow of the remaining immortal. His nose smelled the blood of Xingxian mixed with the fragrance of immortal palace elixirs. The emperor's sea of pure sword intent around him quietly closed. The casual cultivator's eyes widened. Beads of sweat rolled down, and some people burst out with nosebleeds and roared, then collapsed and worshipped. The corpse of the immortal emperor is full of blood and mist, the heat wave hits the nostrils, the sword emperor has returned and is invincible. The city's hermits are shocked, and the secular dignitaries kneel and lick like ants. Han Xiao Yinhong twisted up the fragments of the immortal emperor's magic weapon with a wave of his hand, and the gold and iron shattered with the emperor's glow. Flashing, his pupils shrank in ecstasy, Master, the treasure trove of the 9 heavens immortal palace. The emperor core of the immortal emperor sword fragment flashes, refined into the sword sect emperor armament, and the disciple sword Dao immortal emperor lock is unlocked. Lin Yuyen's water phoenix swept across the immortal blood river, the mist was cool and the steam was scorching, her beautiful eyes murmured anxiously, young master, all the secrets of the immortal map have been collected, and the intelligence network has locked up the higher immortal realm. After ascending to 9 heavens, you can dig it again, and the immortal emperor's weaknesses will be locked forever. Yi Tianxiong's old sword, immortal light, coughed up blood and kowtowed excitedly, the emperor's power slaughters the immortal palace, the former family leader's reputation is dead, and the emperor's lineage will last forever. Resources are more abundant, mountains of spiritual stones, elixirs, immortal treasures are shining like the stars, the body of the immortal emperor's body is spewing sticky immortal blood from its internal organs, and the brains of billions of cranes are exploding with the immortal mist. The status of the clan will always be at its peak. The lights on the high-rise buildings in the city were buzzing with messages from Han Zhao's old circle of friends. The powerful man knelt down and whispered on the phone, Emperor Yi is unparalleled, his luxury car and flying sword despise the world, and the family's mines and spiritual caves are all available. Ye Chen nodded with a smile, the soul-destroying sword emperor roared, the spiritual pressure of the whole place skyrocketed, the disciples' meridians were unlocked by the immortal emperor, and the chants of loyalty were loud and loud. From the abandoned son Ye Chen, practicing the flying sword in seclusion leads to a traffic tragedy, the family meeting slaughters the elder Jiang Chen with a sword, and counter-accuses the family head to seize power, raids the black market Zhao Qian's son's family mineral vein spiritual cave, instantly kills the nascent Soul Allied forces Shangzong. The Sword Cave retreats to massacre the immortal envoy. The passage is forever broken and reopened. 3 immortals are instantly destroyed with one sword, and the immortal emperor is killed in the fairy palace, growing up like a sword rainbow reaching the sky. The pure swordsmanship reaches the Ming Emperor Sea, and the soul-destroying sword merges with the billions of immortal treasure emperors to shine forever. Han Shao awakened his spiritual roots from the rich second generation of the secular world. The first disciple of the Jianzong, the deputy master, transformed into the god Emperor Sua and unified the sword cultivator to wipe out the remnants. Lin Yuyan, a beautiful cultivator, fell in love with the emperor and gave birth to the emperor's child, and the intelligence network woven the mainland fairy world. Cousin Yiji repented and atoned for her sins, assisted the intelligence hall to lock down the weaknesses. Ye Chen, the former head of the family, loyal to the Zhenzong. At the peak of Ye's imperial sect, resources accumulated by the trillions, the spiritual array expanded thousands of miles and shook the heavens. The urban hermits were all worshipped, and the ordinary dignitaries knelt and licked them like ants. The night sky suddenly changes, the golden light of the fragments of the fairy palace reunites and buzzes and tears. The shadows of the higher fairyland surge like the overturning of the stars in the universe. The breath of the unknown fairy emperor is the harbinger of the tsunami in the mountain. The heat wave is mixed with the strange incense and the soul is burned. And the 3 fuzzy white hairs joined forces to hide in white robes. Smiling sleeves waved a different light and roared, "Immortal Emperor Ye Chen. The 9 heavens are broken and others are slaughtered in vain. The 3 emperors are blocking the path to a higher immortal. The resources of the universe are presented, and the soul of the kneeling head will be destroyed." The shadow of the immortal emperor loomed behind the passage, and thousands of casual cultivators ran away with their heads in their hands. The corpses were splashed with blood and mist, and someone's internal organs exploded and became sticky and screamed, "3 immortal emperors?" The passage to the higher immortal realm is reopened, and the iron plate of the emperor's sect is broken again. The family leader said that Fang slaughtered the immortal emperor, and the disaster will come forever. Han Shao Yinhong's meridians trembled slightly. Fiery nosebleed overflowed from the corner of his mouth and he growled, "Master, the immortal emperor's spiritual pressure cosmos, disciple protector." Lin Yuyan's water blade swirled with scorching water mist, and the water mist in her beautiful eyes murmured coldly, "Sir, after verifying the intelligence, we will charge. The pregnant emperor protects the sect." Ye Chen, dressed in black, stepped into the golden light of the passage. The soul-destroying immortal sword emperor screamed, and his eyes pierced the depths of the fairy world and sneered, "Immortal emperor, it's your turn." The fairy light in the night sky engulfed the city. The Yi emperor sect's lights were brighter, and the resources were more abundant. The scattered cultivators shouted allegiance loudly and shook the sky. Han Xiaolin Yuyan and Yi Shi led the protectors. The world was changed because of the Sword Emperor. The peak of achievement is waiting for the bloodbath of the immortal world. Ye Chen sneered and his eyes exploded with an even brighter glow. The soul-destroying immortal Sword Emperor roared across the sky. The hunter in black stepped into the golden light of the new passage, and the sword rainbow went straight to the higher immortal realm. "Immortal Emperor, it's your turn." The lights of Ye's family in the city were bright again, and the resources of the emperor's sect were endless. Han Xiaolin Yuyan and Yi Shi led the protectors to shout for loyalty and shook the universe. The world trembled because of the Sword Emperor. The endless bloodbath on the immortal road is to be continued.